welcome on back to Recovery Day, post the banking crisis. Whee! The Qs are going up, the Tesla's going up. Let's go. Look at Tesla over the 433. Tesla running over the 433. We've got Meta at 715. We've got Netflix back at 1200. What happened to Elon Musk canceling Netflix? I don't know. We're still in the downtrend, but will we explode to the upside on Netflix? You've got Adobe. Can't even hold a triple bounce line, which is sad, but maybe it'll change. The banking fears may be fading, but are the underlying issues still afoot? I don't know. Anyway, welcome on in, everybody. You've got some recovery basically everywhere except crypto today. As you can see, you've even got Jefferies up like 7% today, and people were freaking out about Jefferies yesterday, and they're freaking out about the banking sector, and they're freaking out about Trump. And then, as usual, we got Taco. We got Taco Man, who came out and made everything okay. Everything's just fine. How do we know everything was just fine? Because, Taco Man comes out this morning and said, these problems with our tariffs, these are real unsustainable. We don't really want to have a market sell-off. That would be terrible right now. So, I'm optimistic that our meeting with Xi Jinping is going to be fantastic. We're going to do very, very good. Yeah, this is great. Very excited today. It is a taco day. It is a day of up, not down, in my opinion. We'll see how this continues. So let's go look at what some of the drama is this morning on the Doombergs and otherwise. There was so much drama last night. Last night, the sell-off was crazy if you were watching pre-market or futures. We at one point, I think we were down like 1.2 or 1.3% on the the NASDAQ, which was wild. Trump says threatened high tariffs are not sustainable. Yep, that's what we saw. So Trump's rise stocks rise as Trump reassures on China and regional banks report. Whee! Everything's fine. So let's take a look at this. Auto loan delinquencies. We've got potential easing of tariff policy coming up. I saw this was like a 5-year extension on tariffs. And then we've got the sustainable argument here. So this was not great on delinquencies. So take a look at this. Car loans have gone from the safest consumer products to amongst the riskiest over the last 15 years as delinquencies have risen more than 50%. Auto loans were once a safe haven. New car prices are up about 25%, now at topping $50,000 for a car on average. That's insane, by the way. Interest rates on new car loans are now 9%. You've been hit by the increase of car, and the car loan costs are higher. Average loan balance has grown 57% since 2010. Man, it's not great. The debt is really just what takes people out. What do we got over here? So we've got the President Trump says high threatened tariffs with China were not viable. As tensions between the largest economies intensified ahead of the expected face-to-face meeting. It's not sustainable. Trump said in an interview with Fox Business, a clip that aired Friday, asked whether, that was this morning. Let's go see here. It's just pure taco, right? Fox Business. He says, Kevin, do you think gold is top now or what? The thing is, the vertical move in gold, it's definitely not sustainable. Like, it's going to go down at some point. But there's so much momentum in gold. And I actually think gold could still have legs because you do have fear. And not today, because today you're getting a rebound day, like you had bank earnings this morning, weren't that bad. But I think that underlying fear in this economy is still present, and it's going to lead to profit taking. That profit taking, I think, trickles to some extent into gold. You know, like, am I going to buy gold now? No. But, you know, if I was like, hey, I got a bunch of gold and I need to sell some gold because I feel over allocated, you know, maybe I'd take like 10% off the table now, right? And then I'd say, all right, I'll just wait and see a little bit. And I'll wait a week and then take 10% off the table. I think you can't lose if you take a little bit off the Vegas table. You know, I always love that because we've all had that experience. You go to Vegas, you start out kicking butt, you're winning bigly, you're winning huge, you know, Yoshi's happy, everybody's happy, and then you make the mistake. You keep playing. You keep playing and playing and playing. And you don't take any wins, and then you end up losing. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, obviously, if you have like a super long portfolio where like, hey, like I'm going to hold this for the next 20 years, what difference does it make? Zero. Like, really doesn't matter, right? Like, who cares? It's all a bump in the wind, or whatever the saying is. But anyway, I mean, Tesla's absolutely kicking butt this morning, and Tesla's doing great. CoreWeave is not doing great. MP Material still not catching a bid here. The Qs are doing great. You've got Bitcoin not. I'll talk about what's going on here and sort of why the market is moving like this, but I do want to look at some of these things like Trump's talk this morning. So, first of all, what is this?
Well, it is day 17.
Oops. Oh, that sounds annoying. Where is she reading this from?
A federal judge temporarily blocked the move. White House
Okay.
will not.
Where's the part about? Oh, dude, she's got an interview with the labor secretary. No way. Okay. Well, let's take a look at this. This could be very interesting. What's up, Tom from MySpace? All right. Somebody says, are we tired of winning yet? We will. There will be so much winning. You'll be tired of winning. You say, stop the winning. All right, let's listen in.
Lori Chavez de Reamer. Secretary, it's good to have you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. And happy to be here with you in Washington this morning. Look, you were a member of Congress before joining this administration. You've dealt with government shutdowns before. How do you assess this?
Well, I can't tell you how disappointed I am. Again, 5 times.
Okay, U.S. Labor Secretary, gonna rant about the Democrats. I want to get past that part because this is old news.
And get paychecks back into the American people.
Okay.
People, that's what we know. That's what we hear. On the ground, people want their paychecks. They have to be able to manage.
Okay, we know. Get past the shutdown.
Absolutely. America First policies matter.
Let me cuts. I mean, look, because artificial intelligence is obviously creating lots of efficiencies across business. No doubt it will cause job cuts. I mean, look, I recognize that there will be new jobs created, just like the .com era brought us coders and engineers and all these other jobs that we didn't even know we needed. So that will be the case here as well. I'm not against new technology creating new opportunities, but what is the plan for those jobs that will no doubt go away because of AI efficiency?
Well, I think that's exactly right. We have to have a plan, and there is an AI action plan. That initiative, I sit on that task force. We have to make sure that we're offering our businesses the flexibility to understand that they can, research and development for new jobs. We know we're going to create new jobs, but AI is here to stay. What I'm doing at the Department of Labor is deploying Make America Skilled Again grants. $86 million just went out to 14 different states right before this shutdown. And now, because of this Democratic shutdown, I can't go out and help those states administer those dollars so that our workforce is skilled and proficient in AI.
So the AI action plan is researching the impacts of AI, fund retraining for people impacted by AI. Okay, that sounds good. Oops.
Focuses has been the interest rate, and we've heard constant conversation. The president has been very clear that those interest rates need to go down, and they did at the urging of the president, but we need another rate cut. Business owners want to borrow more money at a cheaper rate. And what do they want it for? To invest in their workforce, to understand that they have a
What'd you say about Bitcoin and gold? You'll have to tell me.
Skilled workforce. One of the things that we've been focused on exactly through also an executive order is more shipbuilders, trained workforce.
More what builders?
AI, advanced manufacturing. That's been the focus of this president.
All right, this is boring.
Biggest slide in jobs since March 2023. And you are bringing back some workers to work on September Consumer Price Report, the CPI report. Tell me what you're doing there. The CPI will be out on October 24th. So we'll get a sense of inflation. What about
Again,
jobs numbers? How would you assess?
Absolutely. One of the reports that was delayed is the CPI report, so it's coming out late. Again, with the jobs numbers last month, due to this shutdown, through BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we have not been able to get out these reports on time. The markets depend on it. Businesses depend on it. So we did see a little uptick in the CPI, but still, under the Biden administration, prices are still lower.
Oh, come
than what
on.
was under
Just
Biden.
get to the
What
point.
we want to do, we want to capitalize again on the momentum that this administration has put forth, the investments into our country, America First policies, private sector job, and
Lord, politician, man.
prices will go down. That's the exciting part.
Fed Governor Stephen Miron on track for another move. Are you expecting it's 25 basis points? Should it be 50?
Yeah, well, my view is that it should be 50. However, I expect it to be an additional 25. And I think that we're probably set up for 3 25 basis point cuts this year for a total of 75 basis points this year. But I think that, look, it would be really helpful to have the economic data in order to be able to make the decisions we need to make. Certainly, we would want to be inspecting the economy for signs of moves lower in inflation, for signs of changes in the job market. But without those data, we still have to make a decision anyway. And so we'll have to rely upon our forecasts for doing so.
Which are down.
If we were to see 3 cuts of 25 basis points, does that speak to what you were talking about in terms of what business managers want to see so that they could borrow more money and invest in their business?
Absolutely. It's one of the legs of the stool that they want. They see the president is fighting for them. They see the onshoring and the reshoring and the investments.
All right, whatever. All right, let's go look at the Trump stuff. So, let's go rocket earnings and that. Yeah, we'll have to look at that in a bit. But you did have a surge in refinances, but I don't think it's going to be enough, to really get rocket earnings to pop. I think what happens is if you get a crisis in the economy, all the stocks will go down, and the first ones to really recover, I think, will be the refinance mortgage plays. And people might front run that. But I think then you get earnings from these guys, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, these are the craziest earnings ever. Because they're not bag holding the mortgages. They're just making the mortgages. They're servicing them, right? But they're terrible plays now because they're predicated on panic. And in panic, everything gets sold. And people rush into gold or treasury bonds, right? So... All right, let's listen to Trumpy Wumpy.
Yesterday, in his first interview since brokering the historic Middle East. It's happening this weekend, the No Kings rally?
No, I mean, some people say they want to delay it for that. A king. This is
more
not a
than
king. They're saying they're referring to me as a king. I'm not a king.
Right. No, but just so that Chuck Schumer could go and say, I'm fighting Trump.
Well, Chuck is, at the end of the line. He's being beaten by everybody that they poll against him. And, what he did is he did the right thing a couple of years ago on something like this, and he got hurt by his party.
Somebody says it's the perfect time to buy. Yeah, I mean, that is a thesis for buying the mortgage companies right now. I just want people to know, listen, the mortgage companies are going to love when rates go to 0 because we had a jobs disaster and the Fed can't get it up. And so they're printing money while rates are at 0. Those plays will be amazing. But, you've got a long way to go between now and there. So you look at the stocks now, it's like they're piles of crap because, that's not a foregone conclusion that's going to happen. Obviously, the stock market's forward-looking, right?
And it doesn't, I don't think it matters to him. I think he's just so dead that he'll do anything. I think they could just stay out forever. I mean, to be honest with you. Now, what we're doing is we're cutting Democrat programs that we didn't want because... they made one mistake. They didn't realize that gives me the right to cut programs that...
Yeah, we know. All right, so let's see what else. So that was Trump slamming Schumer. Then we had... Oh, here's the Trump China part. Let's look at the Trump.
President Trump, in his first interview since brokering the historic, he squeezed the U.S. by tightening the export controls on rare earth minerals.
He did, and I raised our tariffs to 100% on top of what they're already paying, which is far worse, far worse. We'll see what happens with China. I've always had a great relationship with them, as you know. But they're always looking for an edge. You know, they ripped off our country for years. They made with Bush, with everybody. They made Obama was terrible, terrible. And you know, I really liked Ronald Reagan. I loved him as a president, but he was not good on trade. He really wasn't good on trade. On trade, he wasn't good, but he was good in many ways. But I will tell you that China, in particular, boy, they did a number on our country. They took money out. Now it's reversed. I mean, you know, we're doing very well with China. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't tell you. We're going to meet in a couple of weeks. We're going to meet in South Korea, actually, with President Xi and other people, too. But we're going to meet. We have a separate meeting set up.
If you put that 100% tariff on top of what's in place already,
55.
about 157% tariff on
That's right.
China, can that stand?
No,
what is that going to do to the economy?
It's not sustainable, but that's what the number is. It's probably not, you know, it could stand, but they forced me to do that. I think we're going to do fine with China. I get along great with him. He's a very strong leader, a very, you know, amazing man. And you look at what he's done and what he's, you know, where his life is an amazing story. It's a story for a great movie. I think we're going to be fine with China, but we have to have a fair deal. It's got to be fair. And you cover it as well as anybody that's ever covered this subject. You know, it's a very complex subject. But China has ripped us off from day one. And, you know, Richard Nixon, he allowed this to happen. You know, he was the one, he opened China. And I said, is that good or bad? You tell me. He unleashed it. And we have a very strong adversary. And they only respect strength. They really do. They only respect.
Okay, interesting. So tariffs are unsustainable at these levels, and they only respect strength. This is basically signaling the taco. You know, and then obviously we had decent earnings this morning out of, you know, some of the, like, well, American Express, but then again, you know, they're playing off to richer folks, so, you know, what difference does it make? Yeah, this is pretty good. So let's see here. We've got, let's see, taco. Okay, good to let's see here. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, great. So let's go see what else we have, because so far that's pretty chill. Okay, let's go jump into the stonkos. Let's see what's going on here. Q's, they're trying to hold on to 24. Tesla, it's trying. Get a little bit of that profit take. Looks like it's sneaking in again, huh? That's just the environment we're in right now. How's NVIDIA doing? NVIDIA's actually doing great. And Western Alliance Science, we got some recoveries here. I'm going to break down what happened last night as well. But you also want to watch what's going on with Bitcoin. This is more than anything a MicroStrategy liquidity issue. And this is a very aggressive downtrend. Now, when's the last time we've seen, like, see these slopes over here? These slopes are relatively benign. Let's look at the slope of the line that we have here. Boy, I feel like I'm in, like, 4th grade or something. All right, Jessica, today we're going to evaluate the slope of the line. So, let's see here. I'm going to make that red. The slope I have right here is only 15%. You know, whereas over here we're going to be, what, much more than that. Sorry, negative 38. What do I have here? Yeah, 121. Okay. Yeah, I'll play that.
Hi.
Where are you going?
School.
What? Why? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to come say hi? Or are you going to post a video tonight? Probably? Oh, turn on notifications for Meet Jack. You got a book? What's your book on?
A game called Wobbly Life.
Let me see the cover. Wobbly Life, Book 1. So it's like Volume 1.
I'm making a second one.
Nice. Ian, Jimmy, and Jack.
Most of my friends.
Nice. So, you're gonna post a video that's like a month old?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jack edited a video, so he's really excited about it. He's gonna post it tonight on his Meet Jack channel. You could, I don't know, if you type in like Meet Jack Legoland, you'll find his channel. But anyway, what's it on?
This or
The video.
Tokyo Disneyland.
Tokyo Disneyland. Okay. Oh, we make a thumbnail later? Look, I got Tokyo Disneyland right there on my iPad, actually. That's funny. All right, well, have fun, man. See ya. All right, cool. So, all right, cool. So, anyway, where was I? I was just gonna look at this downtrend. Like, when was the last time we've had this aggressive of a slope, right? Probably over here. Yeah, this sell-off over here seems to be roughly similar, and this was leading into the Liberation era. So really, we're suffering the most rapid kind of sell down on Bitcoin since Liberation, and then Japanese carry trade. Yeah, Japanese carry trade and Bitcoin, Japanese carry trade and Liberation Day. Those are kind of the comparable slopes of this Bitcoin aggressiveness that we're seeing. VIX chilling out. Obviously, it's elevated now. This is the day chart. You know, compared to Liberation, obviously, it's still a nothing burger. Okay, good. So let's go see. Let's go to the. Let's see. We got not just the journal to look at today, but we saw the tariff U-turn. Saudi Arabian talks for defense pact. Oh, well, that's cool. Let's see. Here's how dozens of donors have benefited from Trump's second term. Well, it's politicians for you. Kremlin investment chief urges Elon Musk to build Alaska-Russia tunnel. That's awesome. I want to look at that in a bit. It's not super urgent right now. Putin's history. Rant in Alaska. Nudge Trump closer to Ukraine. Yeah. History rant. That's what he did with Tucker Carlson too. He just talks history lessons. Investors warn on leveraged loan risk. Yes. French police arrest 4 over plot to kill Russian dissident. Wow. Dude, you cannot escape Russia, man. That's like the scariest thing about Russia is you just can't escape. If you screw the Russians, they won't forget, man. They will come after you no matter where the hell you think you've hidden. And it's like scary. Like, but I mean, that's the point. Like, that's how Putin pulls this stuff off. You know, the fear campaigns, like they will come after you. And they just put like poison in your tea. You know, like it doesn't even have to be flashy, man. Like, doesn't matter. It's just, we just need you gone. It's like, oh man, that's wild. But I mean, that's the way it is. Okay, so let's see here. Vladimir Oshekin, founder of a group monitoring Russian prison conditions, confirms the attempt on his life. How'd they try to get him? Terrorism charges over an attempted assassination. 4 individuals ranging 26 to 38 were taken into custody earlier this week. No details on their nationality were given. The founder of Gulagu.net, a human rights group that investigates tortures. Yes, I confirm it. I'm alive. The scoundrels have been detained, he said in Telegram. I could hear his accent through the text. Wow. Foreign agents. Wanted by Russia. Ah, crazy, man. Okay. Oh, who's this?
Vice Chair of Evercore ISI. I mean, what is your sense of where we are, both on jobs and inflation, which matters so much right now, and there's so much uncertainty without the data?
Yeah, well, look, as Steve very, very correctly summarized it, you know, we continue to have a weakening labor market on the one side, and we continue to have inflation moving a bit higher on the other. So This is not.
All right, this is like exhaustingly boring. I don't know about you, but like every time I feel like I go to CNBC now, the content is just getting more and more boring. Like, where's the sex appeal? I don't want to see this guy. I mean, we need more Sarah doing like interviews or something. I don't know. More Sarah and less of this. All right, so in the meantime, you'll be stuck with me. So what we got to do now is figure out... I'm actually surprised there's no Wall Street Journal editorial board piece on this banking crisis. Nothing. They talk more about John Bolton than the banking crap that we saw last night. I mean, like, I was up until like 1 a.m. yesterday studying what was going on, and it was scary. We'll talk about some of that stuff in just a moment. But I'm also like, you know, all right, you know, we got to be reasonable. We're going to set up the Alpha report for tomorrow. Anyway, whatever. Which we did well. But we'll talk about that in a bit. So I'm just surprised that there's not more coverage on this from the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times or Bloomberg. There was, who just had, that was the Tunnel. Here, first, okay, this could be interesting. Financial Times. Well over a decade, let's see here. The businessman battling creditors, well over a decade before the lightning-fast collapse of his auto parts conglomerate, the Ohio-based businessman was battling creditors in court over millions of dollars of defaulting debts and fending off fraud allegations. Wow, dude, are you kidding me? The same guy who bankrupted First Brands was the same guy who was in court fighting debt and fraud decades ago? Well over a decade before. Wow. He settled and moved on, soon went on to his next project. Man, it's like once a scam, dude. Holy smokes. This time, however, the borrowing binge coincided with the new boom of risky debt. How he raised billions of dollars with little public scrutiny after moving from conventional forms of borrowing is a story not just of one man's practices and the lawsuits they spawned. It's also a reflection of the $2 billion private credit industry by non-bank lenders. Yeah, well, that's why people are nervous. Oh, yeah, here we go, living the lifestyle. Look at this. Rural property in Ohio. The phalanx of private security staff to keep careful watch over his prized possessions with elite lawyers. Man, I don't know. I hate this stuff. You know, I don't even have a freaking driveway, man. Like, I want my kids to grow up in a normal environment with normal people and normal friends. Anyway, as questions grew around the finances of James's acquisition, Hungary Group First Brands went in the matter of weeks to trying to borrow a further $6 billion to a filing to bankruptcy. Right. They literally went from, we need to borrow more money to bankrupt. That's how you got the Apollo short. You know, it's crazy. Somebody here, right? Robert Martinez says, watching for years, but first time entering the chat. Well, thank you. Okay, they added First Brands founder. Somebody says, how do you screen tenants? I mean, we've got a whole thing in the property management course on how to screen tenants. But I mean, just briefly, we're a big fan of, credit. You got to screen credit and income. Credit, income, credit, income, credit, income. That's very, very important. So some people fear. Okay, Chucheno's legendary short seller who predicted the collapse of Enron. Bankruptcy filing was only the beginning of a harrowing experience for group's lenders. Okay, whatever. Even worse, an investigation underway as part of the bankruptcy began to probe whether invoices or inventory underpinning were used more than once or commingled. Yep, we know that. Many lenders fear they have fallen prey to a shell game. One lawyer told his client another claims more than $2 billion extended, right? Okay. So let's see here. Financial institutions from Zurich are facing reputational damage. Yes. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I mean, so far this is all relatively boring. With the exception, honestly, of the first line. That the same guy had basically debt issues in the past. Because remember, First Brands started as a windshield company. Like, they made windshield wipers. That's very interesting. All right, how are we doing over here? VIX down 7.3. Tesla's doing well. The Q's actually just lost the lead. And we've got financial sector ETF coming back up. Microsoft's having a little bit of a struggle. That might be dragging on the Qs a little bit here. And Bitcoin just popped back over 104 there. Did get down to 104.6. Interesting. All right. So let's see here. I'm going to break down exactly what happened in like a minute or two over the last 24 hours because it's a lot. The Economist says the criminal case against John Bolton looks serious. Yikes. Sucks for him. NVIDIA, Broadcom, and AMD face new risks from OpenAI deals. Why? What are the risks? AMD has the most downside. What? AMD has the most downside. Because its shares rallied on the deal, making it the most expensive of the three. The arrangements open up risk that OpenAI, which expects to burn $115 billion through 2029, can't afford its commitments. Well, duh. Of course they can't afford their commitments. This is old news. No Of course. That's why they're waiting for the NVIDIA check to clear. Come on, man. Come on. Okay. Broadcom's announcement, which involves a partnership, is the most clear cut. Let's see here. AMD pledged to give up 10% of its own stock. NVIDIA, investors worry. Investors at AMD worry what will happen if OpenAI doesn't grow as fast as expected. Well, yeah. I mean, this is like the story is old as times, man. This is not a big deal. We already know those risk factors. I mean, maybe people forget about them, but whatever. Okay, so Euro private equity giants tumble. Oh, this is how you get contagion. Now that's interesting. Okay, so some of Europe's major private market firms sold off Friday over concerns over lending standards in the U.S. Really? Moves followed widespread sell-off on regionals in the U.S. Credit quality is coming to sharper focus following the First Brands implosion. Right? This is, by the way, very shady. Like, I'm going to break that down probably in about a minute or two here. I keep saying a minute or two, but I'm just waiting for the rest of the coffee to get ingested here. Who's got coffee today? Oh, what is this? I just got another headline here. Jefferies. Wait. Jefferies was defrauded by First Brands. That's what they all say. That's exactly what they all say. Guys, we didn't know. It was fraud. We had nothing to do with it. Oh, let's go. No way. Gold Josh in the chat writes, finally caved and joined the membership in Alpha Report and already made my money back on Q calls this morning. Let's go. That's awesome. Good for you. I'm super happy to hear that. All right. So yeah, the call this morning was up Tesla, up Qs, watch for profit taking though. And I always like say like wait for the first 5 minutes because you could tank to a support line, then up, but then watch for profit taking. So it gets nuanced. You know, we spent like 30 minutes this morning describing this. But anyway, I guess there was more we talked about too. All right. We even did a real estate analysis for somebody in Phoenix. And I didn't really like the deal. Yeah, I think that's like the worst. Someone like, they're in the course, you know, they're in the membership, and they're like, hey, can you analyze this deal? I'm in escrow on. And I'm like, these people like have maybe fallen in love with this house. They've written an offer on it. And then here comes Kevin to tell you it's a marginal deal. And I'm like, oh, I just feel bad because it's like, you know, I know how much work there is involved in getting to that point. And it's like, bro. But I think that's my job. So anyway, alrighty. So let's break all this down, because there's a lot right here that we have to discuss. I'm gonna close. Somebody here says made $1,500 on Tesla and Q's calls from Alpha. Thank you, Kevin. Oh, dude, that's awesome. So, well, then you just paid for your lifetime membership. No one is talking about the oh, dude, Insight Square. I'm about to talk about that. I actually have a lot to talk about with that. I will explain all of this. And then Meet McKay says the community tab is popping if you're a course member. Oh, that's awesome. That's in the Meet Kevin app. All right. I will now give you a full explanation of what the hell happened in the last 24 hours. Because really this First Brands issue is like weeks old now, right? But the reason it's popping up again is because of the Western Alliance and Zion Bank fraud claim. Following, of course, JP Morgan's comments as well. Well, Jamie Dimon's comments, right? So we'll talk about that. And I will explain exactly what's going on with these auditors. And I think there's something really important for you need to know about these auditors. I'm going to give you a quick spoiler alert before I go through it all, because this is so important that for you being here live, I want you to understand how ridiculously important this is. People regularly, this happens in real estate too, I feel like. They're like, oh, look, here's an appraisal or whatever. Okay, like, great. Like, an appraisal is an opinion, right? This is why I feel like often you need to get like multiple appraisals, like at least two, right? If you really want an appraised value. I like using comps personally. I think that's often just like, hey, what are the pending sales right now, right? But I want to talk about auditors to that level, because auditing is somewhat different from an appraisal. An appraisal in real estate is an opinion, and other people can have different opinions on real estate values. We don't really know until a transaction happens. With auditing, you're looking at, does this stuff balance and does it have support? Like, it's pretty damn black or white. It either has support or it doesn't have support. And there are some auditors that will look and go, it balances. Do we have support? Nah, I don't really care about looking at the support. And then there are, like, that might be your more basic kind of level audit. And unfortunately, like what we'll see with BDO, that can lead to penalties because you're not really trying that hard. And then the companies go bankrupt and people are like, but it was audited. Now, well, it wasn't a really good audit, was it? And so that's where the gold standard of audits, which there really is no gold standard of like appraisals, for example, but the gold standards of audits are PCAOB certified audits. Those are usually reserved for broker dealers, so people like who hold your money, like Robinhood, right? Or public companies. PCAOB audits, they're like the medallion standard, I feel like, of audits, at least in the United States. And they are the most stringent. Like, if you say something or there's a transaction, they want support for it. Like, it's like, prove it, right? And that's how it should be. And what you're going to find is that in this First Brand situation, the private company didn't have PCAOB level auditing, and actually potentially had auditing that was completely misleading. And so now you have investment bankers who are like, oh, invest in this product, it's audited, but it's like a crap audit. It's just a random opinion almost. It's really not even worth it. That's why I kind of relate it to sort of like, well, we don't really know. It's kind of just sort of like an appraisal. It's an idea. It's an idea. It's a concept of a plan, right? And then when you get into a PCAOB audit, you're not to say there aren't deficiencies. There still are deficiencies because, you know, humans do them. But the standard is so much higher. But a lot of private companies in the private credit world, they don't use these levels of audits. And so we'll talk about that in just a moment. You'll see the problem of that. Anyway, so we'll hit that in just a moment. Keep in mind, House Hack, we don't need to, but, you know, we spend like 40 grand a year on a PCAOB audit. And, you know, one of the reasons is I always told, and still do, I tell everybody that I work with, I go, look, you know, I'm a YouTuber. People love targeting YouTubers and being like, oh, it's a YouTuber, it just can't be good. And so I'm like, let's just have the highest, most stringent standards that we possibly can So that way you're not going to convince everybody, but you were moved out, right? It's like, no, like we run the ship in the best possible manner with the highest standards possible. And then you just put one foot in front of the other and you do good work for people, right? That's the way it works. All right, so let's break down exactly what happened here overnight, because it was crazy. Hold on, I want to hear what Sarah's saying for a second while I close the door.
Side of New York based on taxes and the high cost of living for employees.
I get it. I understand your frustration. I understand that the far left has been raising taxes and making businesses feel like the enemy. We get it. That's gone. The DSA, the socialist.
Bro, this guy's got no chance. This guy's got no chance. It's so boring. It's going to be really interesting. All right, so let's get into this. All right, there's a lot here. You know, somebody here in the chat says BDO won't get punished for it. Well, you're about to see how BDO got punished and sanctioned $2 million for their shystering. Sorry, my friend, sorry. I am not trying to throw you under the bus. I am just trying to say there was some boopy doopy happening at this company. It was not very good. All right. Man. All right, here we go. There's one hell of a tangled web going on in the banking system. And while we got taco from Trump this morning, which is great, Donald Trump talked about how Xi Jinping is a good man. And, China only respects strength, so we have to put up these unsustainable tariffs and make it look like we're being really, really aggressive. What actually happened over the last 24 hours and what we saw last night in the futures market with the NASDAQ down 1.3%, multiple stocks selling off 4%. I mean, it was a bloodbath in the futures market last night. Why? It was all because of the tangled web of the banking crisis, and how far this spreads is scary. And this story gets deep, because what you're about to see is how an auditor could potentially fail at auditing companies, get fined millions of dollars, still be in the business of providing audits, only to give their own lender, the auditor's lender, only to give them potentially first looks at risky business that's going on, so that those suits could then short First Brands with credit default swaps to make some big dollar hollers while they go bankrupt. It is a disaster, and it smells like fraud up and down every way you slice it. And a lot of the suits are going to be telling us on CNBC or around the world that don't worry, this is just idiosyncratic. Which, when you hear somebody say a problem is idiosyncratic, immediately say, idiot. They're idiots. Because when you have smoke in one place, there's fire everywhere. This is the same kind of fraud that was rampant in 2007, and it's not isolated. It never is. It's just a matter of how bad is it going to get, and how much is it going to smell like 2007 and 8. Let me go show you a quick example, and then we'll get into the disaster of the story. Because history tends to maybe not repeat, but it certainly rhymes. Subprime mortgage market woes seem well contained. Here's a Reuters article from August 2007. And guess what this Reuters article tells you? It tells you the following. Watch this. The subprime mortgage market is little more than an asterisk in the overall economy, said a Roth Capital Partners economist. The concern that rising defaults among subprime borrowers will spill over into lower consumer spending is unwarranted, says a director of the University of Central Florida. It's the latest episode of hysteria. It's just a small segment of the overall market, and its problems aren't akin to a currency crisis or contagion. This is just everything's fine. These are just little idiosyncratic problems, and they'll burn out, we'll have some bankruptcies, and the economy will be fine. I hope so. And I so much want to believe in that hopium. But what we saw at First Brands, It goes deep. And I'm going to show you exactly how to watch for this potential contagion spreading. So, first, you got to understand that First Brands has, apparently, we just saw this morning, their CEO has been down this road before. Literally, that's how the Financial Times article starts. You can't make this stuff up. The First Brands chief, Patrick James, has been here before, well over a decade before this bankruptcy that he's now gone through, showing over $11 billion in liabilities. The Ohio-based businessman was battling creditors in court over millions of dollars in defaulting debts and fending off allegations of fraud. So over a decade ago, this guy's getting rich, settling with people who are calling him a fraud, buying massive mansions in Ohio, and maybe not paying his creditors. And now all of a sudden, you're seeing the same thing happen again. See what I mean? With maybe it doesn't necessarily repeat, but it certainly starts rhyming. And this is where First Brands comes up. See, First Brands, they're not that big of a deal in the broad scheme of things. It's not really a First Brands issue. It's an auditing and it's an institutional money management issue. That's the problem that's potentially setting up for a real crisis here. So when we talk First Brands, understand this doesn't matter that this windshield wiper maker is going bankrupt, an auto parts supplier. They started as a windshield wiper maker. Who cares? Nobody really cares about them. What we care about is, what does this mean for the broader market? Why is it that all of a sudden we see the Fed repo facility, which fortunately today wasn't used, but the Fed repo facility is rocketing again? This, by the way, just to give a simple explanation of the repo facility, which is not to be confused with the reverse repo facility. I'll tell you, that gets really confusing, so I'll give you the bottom line here, okay? The repo facility, when this spikes up, which it hasn't since COVID up until recently, it means institutions need money. It means banks, credit unions, globally systemically important banks, or GSIBs, or other asset managers. They have treasury bonds. They can't liquidate them for their cash needs at night, or they don't want to, or whatever, because they don't want to recognize the losses on them. So they go to the Federal Reserve and say, yeah, hey, can I deposit this with you overnight? And can you just give me a bag of cash because I got some bills to pay? I'll pay you back tomorrow. That's how this works. In banking, even overnight matters. Like for us as humans, this doesn't make much sense because it's like, if you have a bill on your desk, you're like, I'll just pay it in 2 days. Like, who cares? It doesn't work that way for the banks, because they continuously have to be in compliance. Otherwise, they could lose their banking charters or just get fined by regulators, even for the non-banks, right? So this repo spike, fortunately, it's settled down today, but even Nick T at the Wall Street Journal is looking at it because he's like, whoa, this is a sign of a liquidity crisis. This isn't great. Now, are we seriously in major stress right now because of this First Brands or banking issue? No, not really. Right? This is where, if you look at high yield corporate bonds versus short-term treasuries right now, if you look at the ratio of this, usually you see this line basically spike up when there's big stress. Stress, or you could call it complacency. Stress is really low right now, or complacency is really high right now. Liberation Day had much higher credit spreads, the Japanese carry trade, the bank crisis of 23, the rate hikes of 22. Like, these were all moments of substantially higher spreads. So it really suggests, right now, markets don't really care that terribly much about what's going on with this banking poopy-doopy. It's one of the reasons why this morning, and this is a little nuanced, but it's one of the reasons why this morning in the Alpha report, the stock market was down like 50 basis points on the Qs. And this morning I'm like, look, in the very short term, this is bullish because Donald Trump is tacoing, which suggests we're probably not going to get bad news today. Donald Trump's tacoing on China. Oh, it's unsustainable, whatever, great. We're probably not going to hear of more bankruptcies today. We might in the next few weeks or months. But today we might end up getting a rebound, and I'd be looking at the Qs and specifically Tesla. Now, Tesla bounced on 414 this morning, and I always like watching for the first 5 minutes to see if we're going to revisit, otherwise bullish. And so there were a couple of course members who were nice this morning who left comments on this. Gold Josh says, finally caved and joined the membership in the Alpha report. Already made my money back on Q's calls from this morning. Made about $1,500 on Tesla and Q's calls from the Alpha. Thank you, says Peel here. Peel, oh, that's funny. But anyway, these are the things we'll do. Like, even when the market's red in the morning, we're like, hey, strategically, we could get a bounce in the morning. That's playable. Just be careful. There's going to be profit taking in this market. So that doesn't mean the market's going to be green forever, but it creates an opportunity to trade, and that's the whole point. That's what we do every morning in the Alpha Report, and if you want to be part of it, not only you get my short-term ideas, you get my medium-term ideas, my long-term ideas, you also get the top 10 stocks to buy, you see what I'm selling, you see what I'm selling, you see what I'm buying, and you also get the courses, the all 8 courses when you join the Meet Kevin membership over at meetkevin.com. Use that coupon code SchumerSiesta. Now, with all of that said, let's understand what actually happened at First Brands. And again, this is a story that you really want to understand. This is not just First Brands. This has to do with $2 million fines from the PCAOB against the auditor for First Brands. And when you understand that the PCAOB, which is the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, when the Oversight Board, which is authorized by Congress, fines the auditor $2 million for similar issues to what happened with First Brands, it says that the underlying fundamentals of a lot of our financial markets could be either fraudulent or rigged. And what we're seeing now are just the early dead fish kind of percolating up to the surface. And now the question is, how many more fish are dying below the surface? Understand this. The PCAOB sanctioned BDO. BDO was the auditor for First Brands. The PCAOB sanctioned BDO $2 million. This is a massive fine, okay? Like, that's huge. This isn't like, oh, you guys made a little oopsie doopsies here. Like, this is, you guys were criminal, is almost what the level of what this rises to. In fact, they went as far as not just sanctioning the company, they went as far as saying the actual individual auditors are also going to get fined. Look at this. Civil penalties for the company of $2 million, $35,000 and $25,000 for the actual individual auditors. That's crazy. So what happened? Well, what happened was this this non-PCA, the BDO is not a PCA, they are overseen by PCAOB, but they were not doing PCAOB audits for this company that they got sanctioned for, or First Brands. PCAOB level audits are the most rigid standards for auditing. They're deemed to be the best audits you could get in America, typically reserved for broker-dealers or public institutions. I pay tens of thousands of dollars extra at HouseHack every year now, including the last year, actually, I think in the last 2 years now, to have PCAOB level audits because we want the highest standard of audits. And BDO didn't have that for First Brands or this company. And look at what happened when they got fined here for AAC Holdings. This had to do with short pays for insurance claims, like claims by AAC that they could make a lot of money in revenue from picking up short pays from insurance companies. But there was no proof that they actually had any historical evidence they could actually make that money. And so the PCAOB is like, we're fining you guys because you guys failed to properly evaluate this company that ended up going bankrupt, and you therefore failed to protect investors. And it all had to do with accounts receivable, which is really interesting because accounts receivable are exactly what the problem was with First Brands. So the First Brands situation, how does this work? So the First Brands situation is unique because you go from a windshield maker, windshield making company to basically a company that became a financing company for taking on debt-based IOUs. So really what it is, quick example. Let's say you make these mugs. Okay, you're gonna sell me this mug for $10. Okay, so you give me this mug for $10 and I'm like, yeah, I'll pay you in 90 days. Cool, well, what happens if I don't pay you? Well, you get burned. And that sucks. There's risk there, right? I'm giving you a note that I'm promising to repay you. Well, First Brands does this with a lot of different people. And now they're sitting around going, man, we can't really manufacture more of those coffee mugs because, we don't have any money. We're waiting for all these bills to come in. So why don't we just call someone up? Hey, yo, bankers, can we finance and get some debt on these IOUs that we have, these accounts receivable? So basically on their balance sheet, the bankers come in and they go, oh, well, it says here your accounts receivable have a lot of money coming in. This looks pretty good. You guys got a lot of cash flow coming in. That's good. That's good. Did you guys get audits on these? And they're like, hell yeah, we got an audit by BDO, yo. And the bankers are like, Oh, okay, you're audited? Oh, that sounds good. They're not paying attention to the fact that it's not a PCAOB audit. They're not paying attention to the fact that BDO got slammed for accounts receivable failures and fined $2 million for basically the same damn crap that happened at First Brand. They're not paying attention to that at all. Why? Because the bankers don't give a flying F. The bankers aren't looking at actually underwriting this product. I hate to say it. They're looking at how to make money. That's all. How am I going to make fees? I hate to say it, but that's how the soup business works, okay? That's why people don't like the suits very much. So, here's how the soup business works. Oh, accounts receivables look good. Okay, yeah, we got an audit. Oh, okay. You know, we could package this. We could take this product and we could put, you know, this is a high-yielding product. We could put all of this into this giant bucket, and then we could sell this to a bunch of little companies. And then we'll have fees for each one of these little tickets. We'll have a fee for every one we process. And, you know, our investors will be left holding the bag, but we'll make a fee and we could disclose to them that these are audited, and we don't really need to look too hard because the auditors already did it. So, you know, what do we care? And we're going to sell this product and make money. That's kind of how the financial system works. And you bundle this crap up, as, you know, whether you want to call them CDOs, collateralized debt obligations, which are somewhat similar to CLOs, a little different, collateralized loan obligations you see with commercial mortgage-backed securities, which that's a whole nother bubble. You end up finding that institutions can make a lot of money selling and packaging this crap. Jefferies. People look at Jefferies and they're like, oh, it's an investment bank. It must be regulated. Like, the government should be looking at Jefferies, right? Wrong. Nowhere near as much as a bank, because Jefferies is called a non-depository institution. They're basically, an investment bank is a company that helps companies IPO or invest into certain packages of doo-doo to get a yield for their assets, right? So Jefferies doesn't have the level of regulation that banks do. And so they can much more easily just sort of rely on like a BDO audit or something miscellaneous for their investment products. And the banks, they don't really know because they're relying on Jefferies. So you remove a whole regulatory element here. And so Jefferies can get loans, and Jefferies can go create products that are full of crap, and they can bundle it together into something like Point Bonita, which is what they did. They bundled all these First Brands debts into a company called Point Bonita because they didn't even want their name on it. It's not like Jefferies Fund 17, it's Point Bonita. Oh, Point Bonita had the losing money. Interesting. So when all of a sudden the First Brands company starts not being able to pay their bills because they're not actually getting money coming in, or worse, they're total frauds and they're double and triple dipping on those accounts receivable. So in other words, you know, you sell me this mug, and then you have that accounts receivable, and you're like, I could go to Bank of America and get a loan, I could go to Jefferies and get a loan, I could go get a loan from 3 different banks. Now you're double, triple dipping on the same accounts receivable. You're really just creating this tangled web of fraud. Now, who was able to profit from the tangled web of fraud? Enter Apollo. And this is where things get really interesting. And the way to see this is you kind of have to draw this out, because it's sad. This is why the suits always win and retail usually always gets screwed. It's so sad. But watch this. So, First Brands goes bankrupt. Okay, so we'll write First Brands right here. They go bankrupt. Now, who loses money? Well, who loses money is all of the people who invested in the slices of crap over here. All these people are now sad. They lost a lot of money. But guess who made a lot of money? Well, remember how First Brands was audited by BDO that got fined $2 million for sucking at accounts receivable auditing? And here they are auditing First Brands for accounts receivable? Well, their lender is a company called Apollo. Apollo Asset Management has lent BDO $1.3 billion. So Apollo has a loan to BDO, the auditor, for $1.3 billion. And First Brand is experiencing financial difficulties. And so what does First Brands do? First Brand says, hey, we need to raise some money. Guess who gets a first look? Apollo. Apollo comes in and says, hey, so you guys need some money? Show us the stuff. Apollo, in 2024, gets a first look to provide credit. So basically to provide a loan, to provide a bailout. And they don't. Instead, they short it. They short First Brands with a credit default swap is what they used here, which is the same crap that we saw in 2007 and 2008. Apollo goes in, buys credit default swaps on First Brands because they're like, that is a flaming pile of poop. And so they set up their short position because they got the first look because they happened to lend a lot of money to the very auditor who got fined for failing on the same stuff that they should have been watching First Brands on. Apollo didn't rely on BDO because they, I feel like, realized that was just a layer of bullshit. Apollo actually looked at the stuff and they're like, this is bad. This is a flaming pile of doo-doo. Let's short it. And that got no attention for, the last year. And people are like, all right, whatever. You took out those credit default swaps. Big deal. That's okay. It was just a matter of time. And sure enough, now Apollo, they look like geniuses. Or they had insider information. And this is how the suits always win. And so what happened over the last 24 hours wasn't really about this company with $11.6 billion of liabilities. Who cares? Like, in the grand scheme of things, is an amount of $11.6 billion really that big of a deal? No. You've got these emails circulating on Twitter where people are like, you've got this email going in, hey, can you guys tell us, did First Brands actually get $1.9 billion? What happened to it? How much money do you guys have in the segregated account for those receivables? We don't know, and zero. In other words, like, over $2 billion of money vanished at First Brands. People don't know what the hell happened. Like, it's just gone. What they were doing is they were double, triple dipping. And then they were blowing the money to finance probably, we don't know for sure, but it'll all come out over time. But to finance, the CEO's lifestyle or whatever with his Ohio mansion or some crap. I hate this stuff. And then they got crappy audits to boot. So what ends up happening is First Brands goes under and you get losses that circulate. You get JP Morgan down $170 million. You've got Raystone down $2.3 billion. You've got Jefferies down up to $715 million. You've got UBS with a $500 million exposure. You've got Katsumi Global. This is a Japanese company that's wholly owned by Nuchu and Mitsu. Probably screwing up those names. They extended $1.75 billion to First Brands. And you might wonder, like, why are these companies extending debt to First Brands? It's because the yields were good, man. The yields were good. The product paid a good commission, probably. We're assuming that because that's what the bankers do. This is one of the reasons why I've gotten such a hate on for JP Morgan. Because when I was starting my career, I'm like, oh my gosh, JP Morgan, the biggest bank in the world, this is great. They're going to give you all these great products or whatever. But you know what it turned into? It literally turned into the schmucks at JP Morgan going, hey, Kevin, you should sell your Tesla stock and invest in our JP Morgan product. And I'm like, you schmucks, you call me all the damn time to try to pressure me to sell Tesla stock to invest in your JP Morgan products so you guys can make your damn fees. That's all it is. That's all banking is. It's so annoying. And now I look at sorry, a little tangential here, but I look at Mercury Bank. I'm sorry, I don't even have an official referral relationship with them, but I did take the affiliate link that they give, Banking Done Right. But it's only because it's not that I want to pitch that. I really don't care. It's that I use Mercury now and I'm like, wow, the technology they have is so much better than the crap at JP Morgan. I'm so excited about it. And I combine that with the productized business that is banking, and I hate it. I hate banks. You don't hate the big banks enough. But understand, so much of this is just layered upon layered fugazi. And that's the scary part, is the layered on layered fugazi. Is that the bankers are like, hey, this is good. Why is it good? Well, because Jefferies says it's good. Okay, well, why does Jefferies think it's good? Well, Jefferies thinks it's good because, they're audited by BDO. Do we believe BDO? Well, it's an auditor. Why wouldn't you? Maybe because they got sanctioned for accounts receivable nonsense on a company that went bankrupt. And now here's another one that we're supposed to believe them on. And Apollo's shorting them because they happen to have the insider info? Well, that doesn't sound too good. But anyway, so what you end up with is just First Brands going under. Now, how does this apply to the rest of the economy? Well, it tells you that now it's not a First Brands issue. What it tells you is you are in a shock-prone environment. And what do you think bankers and lenders do now? Bankers and lenders now go, oh man, The cat's out of the bag. There are some crappy audits going on, and there are some crappy balance sheets. So what are we going to do? We're going to go grab the sheets, and we're going to go, you, look into the balance sheet for this company we're lending to. You, look at the balance sheet for this company we're looking to. You, look into the balance sheet. And so all of a sudden you get executives. Like, you think JP Morgan wants to be on TV talking about how they lost money lending to a cockroach? That's embarrassing for these people. So now all of the suits are going to go, bro, check this shit, because this is bad. And when that happens across the board, lending starts tightening. And that's what you have to be careful of. It's not First Brands. Nobody cares. It's not Zions Bank and these two guys that are supposedly frauds. It's not Western Alliance with the same two guys that are supposedly frauds. It's the same crap that happened in 2008. That's what the problem here is. In a low liquidity environment where all of a sudden the repo facility is starting to pop off, hopefully it doesn't keep popping off. But I mean, look, Reuters is reporting on this. U.S. banks borrowed $6.5 billion from the Federal Reserve standing repo facility on Wednesday, central bank data showed. The repurchase rate suggests tightness in meeting funding obligations with large net treasury settlement due this week. The rise in the repo was unusual. This is more of a sign that liquidity is slowly but surely decreasing. It's not alarming yet, but it's a trap. And mind you, this is why Powell is turning dovish on the vacuum cleaner. Powell, just last week, he told us that some signs have begun to emerge that liquidity conditions are gradually tightening. That's bad. When people start running out of money, at the same time as they start doubting the financials and they start thinking everything's a fraud, then they get fearful. They run into gold and they get out of any kind of complicated financial instrument. This is one of the reasons why I believe Bitcoin is having a little bit of a struggle here recently. Now, it's not that Bitcoin is inherently complicated. Bitcoin's having, in my opinion, just basic technicals here, the worst sell-off that we've seen since the liberation, like the most rapid sell-off that we've seen since liberation and the Japanese carry trade, days of last August. Okay, we're having the worst sell-off since then. Now, does that mean it's going to sustain? TBD, we'll talk about that. But what it is less money is flowing into the strategies of people like Michael Saylor with all these leveraged ETFs and monetize the stock to try to buy more Bitcoin. And people are looking for a bailout from Michael Saylor. And it'll work until it doesn't. See, that's the thing. Yesterday, Bitcoin went down to 106,000 and people on social media were losing their SH9T going, holy crap, Michael Saylor, please buy. Because they realized Daddy is the only thing propping up the Bitcoin valuation right now. Institutions have come in. Retail's come in. We need more leverage buying from Michael Saylor in this environment. That's very bad short term because MicroStrategy is on an ugly downtrend. Look at this. Since July, you're down from $456 down to $284. That is a decline of 38% on MicroStrategy stock. Now, MicroStrategy stock, you have to think of it like a ballast. Okay, so it's sort of like it's a buffer. When MicroStrategy goes to zero, which eventually they will have printed so many shares, they will have diluted their shareholders to zero. When MicroStrategy's premium goes away and they keep diluting their shareholders, that buying support for Bitcoin gets rugged. That's your biggest risk for Bitcoin, but it's also the most bullish thing for Bitcoin. I tell people I want to load up on Bitcoin when Michael Saylor goes bankrupt because it means Daddy got flushed out. And when leveraged Daddy gets flushed out, that's the best time to buy. When the leveraged people, when the emperor wears no clothes, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, look at all the debt get flushed out, that's the time to buy. Anyway, it's a little rant on Bitcoin. But the point is, it's related because this whole financial system right now is built up on a pile of debt. And if people start doubting debt and credit spreads start skyrocketing and credit and lending standards collapse, or like tightness increases, right? The availability of credit collapses, you have no more legs to stand on. Realize First Brands was paying like 9%. Actually, no, I'm sorry. BDO, the auditor who is auditing First Brands, you know how much money they pay in interest? 9%. BDO, Apollo, Loan, cut staff. They're cutting staff. The very auditor Look at this. You can't make this stuff up. This shows you how bad debt is, okay? BDO US lays off employees amid Apollo's debt repayment. Apollo is the principal financier to BDO, providing a loan facility worth $1.3 billion to fund their employee stock ownership plan. And as a result, now BDO has laid off employees to reduce expenses and is considering new debt arrangements. So in other words, they're laying off staff because they're so out of money. They can't pay for this. They're paying 9% interest on these loans, which is insane. Mind you, Elon Musk via XAI is paying 12.5% interest for his NVIDIA lease credit line. He can't even buy the NVIDIA chips because he's out of money. So he's having to lease the NVIDIA chips via a lease option with 12.5% interest rates at 40% down. He's putting 40% down while Meta's putting 10% down because lenders are starting to get smarter. They're starting to go, we got to be a little bit more careful here. There it is. BDO debt is currently paying interest of 9%. These are insane interest rates. These are very, very high. And that's an auditor. An auditor is paying 9%. And this comes at the same time as options activity has never been higher. 1 week ago Friday, we had the highest level of options activities traded ever in the history of options, October 17th. That follows Liberation Day, which was also a pretty remarkable day for options trading. But look at this. Options are a form of leverage, absolutely skyrocketing. Margin debt is a form of leverage. All-time highs on margin debt. Leveraged ETFs aren't even considered in all of this. This entire economy is propped up on debt. Now, is it going to collapse? Well, not necessarily. There are things that can happen, and The Economist actually had a great piece on, what we could do to sort of avoid this. And so here is the recipe to avoid profit taking. Number one, the private credit disaster blows over with no more large bankruptcies or very limited bankruptcies, and people end up saying, see, it was idiosyncratic after all. There's no problem here, no new banking crisis, everything's fine. Best case scenario number one, condition number one. There are 3 conditions, okay? 3 conditions for the boom to keep going. Number one, private credit blows over. Number two, tariffs don't actually end up hurting the economy, not in the last 6 months, but the next 6 months. That's where it matters more because, people pulled forward inventory, built up inventory to insulate from tariffs. That insulation wears thin. When the insulation wears thin, that's when we're going to actually see the real pain of tariffs. And then you will know if the economy actually receives any kind of damage. Okay. Number 3, the AI bubble doesn't pop. As long as we don't have a private credit disaster, tariffs that hurt, or an AI bubble that pops. As long as we don't get any of those 3, we can keep going, okay? We're going to soft land. We'll go back to all-time highs. Calls on the Q700, baby. We's going to the moon. If any of those go poopy-doopy, we're screwed because we're sitting on a mountain of toxic debt. We can't even trust the damn auditors anymore. That's scary. So, what's my point of view on this? What am I doing? Well, you already know this. To some extent, if you've been paying attention, very clear on this. There are short-term trades that you can make. We talk about those in our Alpha report every morning. People made great money this morning on the plays that we talked about this morning. Mind you, I was also bearish on CoreWeave and MP Materials. MP Material is now down over 20% since my call of a top. When it was in the 80s, I'm like, this is going to go to 100. And it's going down. It literally went to 100. In pre-market, technically, it went to 104. And it's been down 20% since then. Down 25% if you consider the 104 or 24%. But anyway, so join the Alpha report. But beyond that, the other thing that you want to watch, credit spreads. We are at complacency levels of credit spreads. This is insane. Credit spreads are so low right now. There's only really one way credit spreads are going to go, and it's up. That means credit is going to get harder and less available. Now, we've had other cases where credit has become less available, but you have to think about what's added onto the crap here. Stocks at all-time highs, the actual effects of tariffs, and jobs. Those are 3 things that make this potential credit event even worse. We didn't have stocks at all-time highs in 23 during the banking crisis. We already had a stock sell-off over here during this credit event. We didn't have high debt during these scenarios. We weren't at the highest levels of margin or options trading ever in any of these other scenarios. That's all unique to now. And we didn't have a jobs issue. You know, here, we started having a jobs issue here around the Japanese carry trade. Started to. Those were the early warning signs. I think the enthusiasm of Trump winning really put pause on this for a while, which was great. But the bills got to get paid. So there are definitely, like, people ask me, they're like, all right, Kevin, I go to, meetkevin.com/data to see your bear bull scale. I should really update it because I feel a little more bearish today. But, whatever. I think it's at 4.2. Maybe it's like what? It's 4.3s, whatever. Maybe I update it to like 3.9 or 4.0, right? I'll do that after this. Big deal. The point is, there's a reason why I haven't been over a 5. There's a reason why I don't want debt. Like I said, you know what I'm doing. When does Kevin pay off debt? I just paid off my house. And the house I bought for my dad. Paid off, okay? I have no car debt. I'm also looking at, like, there's no debt in my stock portfolio, right? So I look at this and I go, I am not playing the debt game in this environment because I am nervous about where the economy sits. And so I think of that as just sort of like hopefully a warning for everybody, because I think in the near term, there's going to be a lot of profit taking in this market. Now, it could just be seasonal October, and like I said, maybe the credit stress will go away, and we won't see credit yields widen, we won't see bad jobs numbers, and we won't see an AI issue. But there's so much fugazi that making like wild bets on margin right now or leverage that everything is going to be fine, I don't think it's worth going to zero. You know what I mean? Like, take some money off the Vegas table, be safe, and if somebody else makes a little bit more money, who cares? Stay away from that toxicity of relativity, right? Somebody says Dave Ramsey would be proud of you, yeah. Somebody else says buy gold. Gold is actually your warning sign, right? I mean, I'm not going to buy gold right now because, usually what happens is you get these crazy run-ups of gold, and we've talked about this before, and then obviously when poop actually hits the fan, gold also comes down. But gold is, to me, more of a warning sign than an investment vehicle. It's a tool that tells you, hey, people are concerned. Where do people go when they take profits on stocks? Think about this for a moment. When people take profits on stocks, usually they're looking for the next trend. They're not trying to sit in a money market. That's boring. So what's the next trend? Gold or bonds? Bonds actually have a good shot. A little bit of a give back today, but bonds are like the stepchild of gold right now. Look at the slow uptrend you're getting on the 25-year average maturity bond right here. This is TLT. It actually says 20-year treasury bond, but it actually says 20-plus year because the average maturity is like 25 years. But you've had an uptrend on TLT, for example, since May. And you're potentially breaking out of the 90 level over here. It's down 20 bips today. But if we actually get to the next gulf over here, I don't know when it'll happen, but as these shocks become more pronounced, there's a good shot of TLT rapidly going over 100. Just because it'll be a bond play. People will flee to the bond play. It's funny, this morning in the Alpha report, I said, hey, we're, 137, this isn't looking good. Like, we're back at 137 again. It just cannot stay above 137. And so I was bearish on CoreWeave this morning. But anyway, those are my thoughts on what the hell just happened over the last 24 hours. It's a pretty big deal. Now let's listen to Sarah.
Following that this morning, Hugh, looked like a good quarter.
Yeah, that's right, Sarah. So American Express out this morning with a beat on the top and bottom lines fueled by a jump in their spending by affluent customers. So total spending on Amex cards rose 8.5% to $421 billion in the third quarter, which is a pickup from the 6.5% growth rate of the second quarter. Amex CFO Christophe Lekayak telling me today that growth was fueled by a 12% increase at spending of retail stores, 14% jump in purchases of first in business.
This is boring. Hey, I have a dad joke for us. Let me see if I might screw it up. Lauren gave it to me yesterday. It was great. So, all right, let me see if I screw it up. All right. So I went to the doctor, and I told the doctor I got bitten by a wolf. And the doctor said, where? And I immediately replied, said, no, a normal one. I'm sorry. Oh, God. Okay, all right. Let's go and see what the Doomers have. Yeah, let's see here.
Look, there was that report from The Information that we were worried that basically Oracle wasn't going to be making that much money for itself when it gets a big $300 billion contract from OpenAI. They tried to reassure the market. It hasn't paid off for today, it seems.
I think the big push came on the stock when they announced that big RPO number, a few weeks ago. So I think you could, perhaps say that this is more sell on the news kind of, information or a reaction. But, from our side, that 35% is a very good number, frankly, because you can go back in the history of cloud computing, even in the days of when Amazon, Web Services was formed, getting to a gross margin starting off this early. And, it's not a bad thing because over time, that number is going to grow as you scale up, as you are able to do things in a much more effective way. 14% number from that article that you mentioned was concerning, and I think these guys did a good job of explaining why that's not the case for them. And from our side, I think the profitability aspect is fine. They talked about, revenue growth of 30% over the next 5 years.
All right, this is so boring. Let's go look at something else. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do, so we talked first brands, that was huge. Tricolor is just sort of part of that whole disaster too. Do you see what's going on with Venezuela deploying troops? That I thought was very interesting. So, Venezuela mobilizes troops. Like, I don't know about you, but this is the kind of stuff that always makes me a little nervous when I see stuff like this. Venezuela mobilizes troops and militias as U.S. military looms offshore. U.S. military with Blackhawks is doing quite a bit of training in the Caribbean, sort of like off the coast of Trinidad and otherwise. In part because Donald Trump has suggested he authorized the CIA to conduct ground strikes inside of Venezuela. He obviously refused to say whether or not he would authorize any kind of strikes on Maduro, whom he thinks is illegitimate. But Trump's argument is, hey, we're going after the drug cartels because they're bringing drugs into America, whether it's fentanyl or otherwise, and they're killing Americans. And so now you've got Blackhawks doing training missions off the coast, essentially of Venezuela, off the coast of Trinidad as well. And so now Venezuela is escalating, apparently, by moving troops into position on the Caribbean coast and mobilizing what Maduro is asserting is a millions-strong militia in a display of defiance against the American buildup in the Caribbean, the largest since the 1980s. I mean, this is part of Donald Trump's peace through strength plan, and you have to give him credit for what's going on with Hamas. Now, of course, you've got splinter cells of Hamas because they don't have unified leadership doing stupid things. They're a dumb terrorist group. But understand that Donald Trump's strikes on Iran were so ballsy that they did shake the boots of Iran. Now, I have to say, I was questioning, I'm like, okay, how much did we actually shake the boots of Iran? We didn't hit Pickaxe Mountain. Construction is continuing at Pickaxe Mountain. There are reasons to believe that Iran moved their highly enriched uranium and that they can rebuild. But the fact that Iran didn't support Hamas in this peace deal, in rejecting the peace deal, suggests that Iran has been humbled. So Donald Trump's strategy here worked for now. Now, is Iran potentially going to rebuild? I don't know. How many more nuclear scientists do they have left? Israel took out quite a lot of them in coordinated attacks using U.S. weapons. Remember, we can send weapons up into the sky that float around and circle, and they all strike us. It's insane, the weaponry we have. Absolutely insane. This is why Putin's shaking over the idea of tomahawks going to Ukraine. And Zelensky's like, give me my tomahawks. I'm coming to DoorDash my tomahawks. And that's why Putin had to give Trump another history lesson yesterday for 2 hours on the phone. But anyway, this is Donald Trump's MO. The strongman regime has cracked up its propaganda machine. On state television, announcers are telling Venezuelans that the U.S. is a Nazi-like state and wants to dig its claws into the country's oil wealth. But that the Venezuelan military are positioning to repel any invasion. And it's unlikely that there would be any kind of like larger invasion from the United States. Typically what happens with these Black Hawk training missions is that usually you're delivering Delta Force or Spec Ops forces, Navy SEALs or otherwise, or even CIA assets, and you're dropping assets into the country, whether through stealth or otherwise. And so there's really no expectation that the United States is like going to go to war with Venezuela here. This is, really just, as the Wall Street Journal here puts it, propaganda by the Venezuelan media. But it is true that, Donald Trump is going very aggressive. And after, whether the drug facilities, drug making facilities, the distribution networks inside of Venezuela. At the same time, it's convenient because he doesn't love the leaders. So what you really do is you undermine the leader's credibility. So on one hand, you're fighting the drug war. On another hand, you're also undermining the leader's credibility. And you're hoping that people potentially either overthrow the leader or vote for a new leader or otherwise, or whatever. Okay, Venezuelan armed forces, which military experts say on paper is 125,000 soldiers, are shown marching in formation with troops mounting armored vehicles and boxes of munitions. The country's Russian-made fighter jets are featured in footage, shooting across the sky. Ooh, people are ready for combat, ready for battle. I don't think this is really going to go anywhere, but anyway. The U.S. has moved advanced weaponry into the Caribbean, including 8 Navy warships, attack submarines, F-35s, Poseidon spy planes, Reaper drones. Dude, I see these spy planes all the damn time by the airports and they don't turn their transponders on, and it pisses me off so much. Turn your freaking transponder on when you're in American soil or over it. Anyway, I know that's not the modus operandi of the military. And people think, Kevin, they shouldn't be seen by enemies. You're not an enemy when you're over Camarillo, California. The Pentagon has deployed elite special forces operations, including the Army's 160th Spec Ops Aviation Regiment called Night Stalkers. Ooh, that's hot. The unit flies missions for commandos such as the Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Delta Force, famous for their involvement in the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. Large troop-carrying and attack helicopters are part of the mix. Damn. The Pentagon also dispatched bombers. Oh, the B-52. Donald Trump is obsessed with the bombers, the B-52s. Absolutely obsessed with them. So far, the U.S. has carried out at least 5 strikes on drug boats, killing 27, an unusual display of American force against narco-trafficking, narco-terrorism. Some American lawmakers say these are extrajudicial executions. The problem that you have is people are claiming the Trump administration does not have any evidence to say that these were actual drug traffickers. And so you're really relying on U.S. intelligence to say that they are. Now, I happen to have a little bit of a U.S. bias here, where I'm going to make the argument that the CIA and, our Coast Guard probably have enough credible evidence to where I'm not like shaking my boots over extrajudicial executions. They're probably right. Do we have a 2-year court case to prove it? No. But this is, that's the military. And Donald Trump is licensing them basically to do what they need to do to get their job done. So good for the military, great time for the military because they can actually get done what they want to do. And ultimately the goal is to keep Americans safe, to keep drugs out of America. And the lower the supply of drugs, the higher the cost of drugs, and hopefully fewer people are using them. Of course, then you have, stupid areas like San Francisco that almost encourage this. It's just sad. But San Francisco's actually started to get a little bit better, parts of it. You actually go towards the piers and some of the nicer areas, it's getting a lot better. So there's improvement coming. It's almost like it's coming out of recession. Just a Reuters update here. 2 alleged narco-terrorists were killed and 2 survived a drone strike yesterday on a cartel drug trafficking semi-submersible off the coast of Venezuela. The survivors were rescued last night by the U.S. Navy and transferred to a Navy vessel. Oh, well, we got 2 of them now apparently captured. Look at that. Venezuela is hardly ready for any American action. The economy is in free fall, predicted to contract 3%, with inflation to hit 682%. This is very, very bad, mind you. When you have such levels of inflation, you would rather just go buy bread at the local grocery store the moment you get your paycheck because you don't trust the currency, like anything but this. And again, I don't think there's going to be any kind of actual standoff between the Venezuelan military. I think there's a very clear, hey, we're going to not respect your territory here, and we're going to go in and kill who we need to fight the war on drugs. And unfortunately for you, Venezuela, that's also going to undermine your Venezuelan credibility. That's why Maduro is warmongering here, going, we're ready to fight. Because he has to maintain any kind of personal credibility. Otherwise, people aren't going to have any, they probably already don't have any faith. But anyway, that's important to know. So we'll see. I know some people are worried, hey, these things, you need a jury to execute people or whatever. But this is more than that. The way the Trump administration is branding this is narco-terrorism. So, if Hamas is pointing a gun, for example, at U.S. soldiers, they're going to get shot. They're going to die. There's no jury involved. It's straight up law enforcement. And so that's the faith you have to have in the U.S. military operations, that they're not going and killing innocent people, that they are actually killing people, that they have somehow verified are bad or terrorists to some extent. That's the argument. Now, of course, people are going to have two sides on that. But other people in the chat are saying short fishermen. Yeah, fishing will probably fall because I think you're going to create a cloud of fear over there. But anyway, we'll see. So we'll see. That's what's going on in Venezuela and what's going on with the geopolitics. So keep an eye on it. But I don't expect too much more drama out of it. I do expect strikes deep within Venezuela. I don't know that I would expect an overthrow of the government, because then you do also risk a power vacuum. When you take out Maduro, for example, you're going to have a power vacuum. You would have to install a puppet. And puppet regimes usually don't last. So I think the complexities of overthrowing the government versus just undermining the government don't lead to a desirable reason to overthrow Maduro. I think you're better off having that knucklehead with a crap economy and then taking out the drug lords than getting into some kind of prolonged conflict trying to reform government and democracy build. We'll see. All right. So what else is going on here?
And you have $140 billion spent on bookkeepers and accountants that are actually doing the work. And we believe that gap is actually going to narrow significantly because AI and software is now actually capable
AI's going to take over!
And that is just one example. But if you take every piece of the services side of financial services, that's kind of the trend that we're paying attention to.
But for those services to be so impactful and so productive has to be the infusion of generative AI. That has to be correct if we're talking about making sure that the cockroaches aren't creeping in. And so how are companies in stress testing ensuring that the advances they're making aren't having unknown consequences for the companies that have taken on?
That's a great question. And the first thing that we think about is you're not comparing yourself against perfection, you're comparing yourselves against humans. And unfortunately, humans are also not perfect, right? And so if you take compliance as one example, right? This is a huge cost center for banks. Right, if you take one of the large tier 1 banks, they can spend upwards of $300 to $400 million on compliance analysts. And the problem is they're spending $300 to $400 million for terrible outcomes. Right, we're still seeing $3 to $5 billion a year in compliance fines. We're still seeing very slow customer onboarding. We're still seeing very inconsistent results. And so, for example, one of the companies that we invested in at Greylock is called Greenlight. They use AI to basically automate this compliance workflow. And if people are concerned initially about accuracy, they basically use a human-in-the-loop system, right? So, all
right, this is old news. Yes, AI is great for compliance.
How the demand
without a doubt. Yeah, it was interesting talking.
Oracle's down 7%.
One of the most important companies there is. Oracle certainly having moved, as you just noted, to the fore. In fact, of providing so much in terms of the AI ecosystem, so to speak. Seema, thank you.
Meantime, Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff facing some Silicon Valley pushback over his support for a National Guard deployment to San Francisco. Prominent startup investor Ron Conway resigning from the board of the Salesforce Foundation yesterday, and this morning...
Oh, whatever. Ron Conway's a little weenie bitch, dude. Come on. I have no respect for that. You're going to leave because, we're going to try to make our American streets safer? Good riddance, bro. Whatever. I get it. Okay? It comes across as fascist and dictatorial. I get it. That's the same thing that I was told when I ran for governor. I'm like, listen, I'm tired of people dying on the streets to homelessness. I'm going to deploy the National Guard, and I'm going to stop it. It'll be done in 60 days. There will not be a single homeless person left on the streets in California. because not only are we going to solve the mental health crisis, not only are we going to stop people from sleeping on our streets because they're dying on our streets, but we are going to make California safe by deploying the National Guard. And immediately people, oh my gosh, you're a fascist, you're a Nazi, oh my gosh. Shut up. Like, it's doing your job. The job in government is make people not die. How about that? Like, how hard is that? Don't have people die. Okay? Gosh. It's no matter what you, this is why I hate politics. No matter what you do in politics, you're just gonna, you can't please everybody. It's a disaster. So I'm grateful to be here to share perspective, and that's it. I'm very happy. I got my little house hack baby, and I feel very good. So, okay, let's go see what's over here. Dude, the house hack AI, I was working on it some more yesterday. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have there are gonna be some pictures that we post probably later today. We'll do. We've got the new website coming together. Actually, I could probably just show some. Let me see. Do I have it ready yet? I don't think so, because I think we're still drafting. There's still some oopsies. This is still a draft of the website right now, so this could be wrong. Spoiler alert. Reinvest. But what's really cool is we actually show the images of like the AI and the time frames, the private alpha access, the beta access, the renovation AI, valuation AI, like how we're doing this, net worth boost estimates, you know, like wedge estimates. The whole idea is to basically like give you an opinion of how you should rank deals to see like, hey, like here's a deal that's going to lose you money if you buy it, or here's a deal that's going to make you money if you buy it. Like the amount of money that I think we can make for people who are home buyers or real estate agents or investors is insane. Like every single person who goes and buys a home should use this. And also we're gonna get to where like, you know, where the renovation AI is in progress. It's insane. Like what we're doing is so freaking exciting. And that's part of why I'm like, I don't know. Let NVIDIA stock keep going up. You know, it's fine because we've got some actually really cool stuff going on. But anyway, all right, what do we got over here? Oh, just for like disclaimer purposes, this is not investment advice, not personalized investment advice. Make sure before investing into any private company, you realize there are risks with investing. Read the offering circular. This is not personalized financial advice. I'm the CEO, so I could be biased.
I wish I could sing.
No music. This is Christina, addressed to me. Oh. Why do you always wear blue?
Somebody here in the chat says, isn't Reinvest sounds better than House Hack? Yeah, I really like Reinvest because the other thing we're going to do, spoiler alert, we're getting into, we're going to have opportunities for people to reinvest, not just their dividends, but we'll also probably be doing parallel work with tokenizing real world assets, which is like huge. So, spoiler.
Reading between the lines, you seem to have taken up rugby. How did you know that?
That's clever, yeah.
Because it's true. I have. Not taken up playing.
That's what I was saying.
I would be the ball in a rugby game. No, it's not that. But I am going to see the All Blacks play Ireland in Chicago in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. You were a rugby
player. Are we talking about the Blacks?
Well, ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with Or Health. Or Health.
Nope.
To replace restricted NVIDIA gear as part of a domestic AI development boom. Now, the company swung to a net profit of $79.6 million in the September quarter too. Look, it's not quite the tens of billions that NVIDIA is making, but it is compared to a net loss of $27 million a year ago, according to a filing on the Shanghai Stock Exchange. And coming up, Meta. It's set to seal a $30 billion financing package for a data center site in rural Louisiana. More next. This is Bloomberg Tech.
Man, all ads today. I'm tired of the freaking ads. I hate ads
what the
so
world
much.
Needs is more facts. Ambition.
So sick and tired of this crap. By the way, have I mentioned there's a coupon for the coupon code Schumer Siesta link down below?
Coupon linked below.
You get all the courses, could be tax deductible. You know, you get all the trade alerts, you get the alpha report every morning. Okay, let's go see what's going on with the sticks. Or, let me see here first. Okay, what do we have here? The Faulkner focus.
Transgender athletes to compete in women's sports. Let's watch a bit.
I'm about to show you guys how uncomfortable it is for these young girls.
Point of order. We've asked that we use.
Oh, so wait. They're covered. You feel uncomfortable? Because that's what these young girls feel like when a boy walks into the locker room and starts unchanging in front of them. Yeah, you feel uncomfortable, right? Feel uncomfortable, huh? That's what these young girls feel like every time a young boy changes in front of them. This is Maine's capital. We should be setting an example for the rest of the state.
Country.
You know what example you guys are setting? That we do not care about the young girls in this state.
The fact that this was necessary, do you think it's effective?
I think it is because it puts it right back in their face. And
drama. Gotta love the drama. Love it. Love it. Much more than the ads. All right. So. All right. Nothing's going on here. Let's go pop on over here. What else do we have going on here? What is this nonsense?
Do it. But Putin is playing the same game. Putin is dangling the talk of peace without really doing it in order to get Trump to back off these threats. So I think what President Trump needs to do now is give the Tomahawks to the Ukrainians, put on some secondary sanctions, and then tell the Ukrainians,
have some balls.
If Russia calls for a ceasefire, don't fire. But if they refuse and if they don't do a deal, they're all yours.
So Jill, tell us more about why you believe the Kremlin requested this call between President Putin and Trump less than 24 hours before the Zelensky meeting today.
Well, I think it's precisely what Ambassador Volker was saying. I mean, the question that we've been hearing for several days has been on these Tomahawk missiles, and they could be significant. I mean, when the president says 1,000, I don't think there's any way that Ukraine would get 1,000. But even the idea as a bargaining chip that they would be used is significant. So I think Putin, knowing that when he talks to President Trump, he can often be very convincing. And I think what he was trying to do is dissuade President Trump from going down that route by telling him, hey, these missiles aren't really that effective. We can shoot them down. And by the way, if you do that, that means that the United States is more directly involved in the war. Therefore, relations between our countries will be hurt. It is standard Putin. He jumps in and tries to convince the other side not to do what they plan to do and to do what he wants them to do.
All right, let me go to Helena in Kyiv. She's a member of the Ukrainian parliament once again. Helena, what do you want to see come out of President Zelensky's meeting today with President Trump?
I totally agree with the previous speakers. I want to see some, certainty. We've seen a lot of statements, and I really like and appreciate, and from the, on behalf of Ukrainian parliament and Ukrainian people, I can say that we are very thankful for the statements that President...
Ooh, look at this. This is cool. See the advanced weaponry the U.S. is deploying to the Caribbean. Oh, snap. Yep, here's Trinidad. You've got Venezuela. Venezuelan flight monitoring area. Ooh. A lot of equipment outside of Puerto Rico. Special operations vessels, destroyers, cruisers, landing helicopter docks, Ospreys. Oh, these are sick. When I did flight training, I'd see these land next to it around me. They're so cool. A subscriber flew one over my house, and I'm like, oh, that'll make you shake in your boots. That was awesome. Anyway, Reaper drones, Globemaster 3s, Poseidons, F-35s. These are awesome. Even just the outlines of them. This is pretty big. We are moving equipment over to Maduro. U.S. troops deployed in the Caribbean versus the estimated requirements for a Venezuelan ground invasion. We're not going to stop fear-mongering the Wall Street Journal. We're not going to ground invade Venezuela. This is ridiculous. All right. Okay. Dude, how are they still on commercial? Oh. Just want to get a freaking cup of coffee, man. Dying over here. Oh, wait. All I ask for is a cup of coffee and a quick little leg stretch. Golly. Oh my lord. Dude, every single one of them. I mean, it's almost 9, but I feel like they've been doing this for like the past 5 minutes. Oh, let's give them a chance.
Into this entire paradigm, pharma stocks have been, under a lot of heat for a number of years. I think we're finally getting to the point where
he's talking about pharma. Fifth Third earnings show regional losses idiosyncratic. Idiot. Earnings beat by Fifth Third confirmed my view that idiosyncratic credit situations at regionals won't be enough to sustain 10-year under. No, it's fine. You're not going to see the deterioration in earnings though. Like earnings can beat, but they could also beat on bullcrap balance sheets. People don't realize that. Auto loan delinquencies are now 50% higher than they were after the financial crisis. That's definitely a sign of stress. Gold price rise triggers bubble alert. Yeah, that's also not a surprise. Okay. Fine. What is going on now? Let's see here. Tesla's up 1.5. The Qs are green. You've got TLT is almost in the green. Look at that rise today. That's very interesting. You've got Netflix by 1,200. Tesla sitting on that 433 line. You've got Bitcoin's actually recovered nicely here. Look at that, we got to 103.6 on the 5-minute for a moment. Wow. Dang, bro. Pins, Axon, AMD, still losing. This has been a tough spot for AMD. That's been a tough one. Okay. Let's see. Wells Fargo, got Goldman. All right. Oh, here they talk about credit now.
Have these credit issues which are hanging over the markets. I think everybody at this point recognizes that. The key questions at this point being, are they idiosyncratic and overblown, or is this something more widespread? The cockroach issue. As Jamie Dimon suggested this week in saying there usually isn't only one. We're trying to figure out, investors are, I think the markets are, what other issues are there?
All right, boring. Wall Street races to sell risky ETFs as crypto crash hits retail. When crypto prices were running hot, Wall Street pounced. Issuers filed a number of dizzying ETFs tied to altcoins. Billions of dollars in market value vanished when the altcoins plunged, exposing how illiquid and unstable many of these assets remain. Some tokens are down over 70% over the past week, with bids disappearing as liquidity thinned. Brutal reminder of the large swaths of digital assets that still resemble a financial Wild West. Roughly 130 applications linked to similar cryptocurrencies are now pending with the SEC. Wow. Including funds tied to Chainlink, Polkadot, Pengu, a meme coin affiliated with Pudgy Penguins. Wow. Dogecoin already has a live ETF, which has pulled in $38 million of inflows. D-O-J-E. Doge. And wow, straight down. RIP. Oh, here you go. So they have $30 million of assets in Doge. Yeah, I think all of this talk about roaches is honestly offensive to roaches at this point. Like, roaches aren't frauds. They're just gross. Recent crypto slump is far from the chaos of 2022 digital asset crisis, but still raising red flags. Fears of credit markets, many filings are based on the back of bullish sentiment. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah? WLFI needs their liquidity too.
Scene Center. I went home, I put my sweats
How's
on,
Alts
I
doing?
ordered Chinese.
Yeah, how's Alts doing? Let's go take a look. Yeah, MP Material still slipping. Let's go look at Alts. Alts. Dude, Alts down another 7%. I keep telling you, the support line for this is 0. It's going to get delisted. It's going to go to 0. Not guaranteed, not personalized financial advice. That's my opinion.
Do 25, wait and see what happens, and then you can get a better idea of what to do.
Coffee.
There really isn't a risk-free path now since it appears that inflation is continuing, but now the labor market has demonstrated pretty significant downside risks as payroll jobs have declined.
Let's dig into all of this with Steve Brown, CIO of Fixed Income at Guggenheim Investments, and Priya Misra, Portfolio Manager at JP Morgan Asset Management Core Plus Bond ETF. Priya, let me start with you because you observed that there appears to be a disconnect between the labor market and GDP. Walk us through what you mean.
Sure. So if you look at the GDP numbers, or even I would say consumer spending, you'll say that's fine. So why is the labor market weak, and what should the Fed focus on? I'll say the Fed has its dual mandate with the labor market more important than GDP. But I would also say let's look at GDP and look under the hood. Really, it's an AI trade. If you take out AI-related investments, GDP is running about zero. So I think, we're in a government shutdown. We're not getting real-time government statistics. But if you take a step back and look at the data, the economy is slowing. Now, it might be slowing into the soft landing 1 to 2% GDP, but the labor market is slowing, and it might be a structural reason because of AI, or it could be that companies are paying for tariffs through reduced hiring. We still haven't seen the pickup in layoffs. I mean, I do miss initial claims, but looking at the state data of initial claims, we're not seeing the pickup in layoffs. So I think the disconnect, if you were to take out the AI effect, there's less of that disconnect. Things are slowing, allowing the Fed to respond to the weaker labor market, to cut rates at least to neutral. And that's what the market's pricing in. The market's not pricing in aggressive rate cuts below neutral. The end point after all those rate cuts is still around 3%, which is most estimates of neutral. So I think the market, every market is priced for perfection, priced for that soft landing, slowing growth, Fed allowing the Fed to cut rates, and not anything more.
So, Steve, you observe that it's a low-fire, no-hire labor market, and certainly the private data backs that up as well. What is your take on what traders are pricing in terms of rate cuts, not just for the rest of this year, but in 2026?
As Priya said, the market's coalesced around a 3% terminal Fed funds rate, which largely aligns with our base case view. I would add, though, that we think there's downside risk to the policy rate, particularly as Priya laid out with what we think an underlying weakening or softer than expected economy. So as interest rates start to fall, that will start to feed back into economic growth, we think, and eventually be a ballast and supportive for growth. But for now, with the Fed focused on labor market weakness and not wanting to be above neutral, we think that it's going to be a pretty equal step down towards 3%. We have to think, too, the Fed leadership, there's going to be a substantive change here in the first half of next year, and we know what the bias of that policy is going to be.
Yeah, pretty clear, and that is lower rates for sure. Priya, what happened to the debasement trade? It was such big talk over the last 2 weeks. The dollar set for its worst week in more than 2 months this time around after rebounding last week. But, Bitcoin is sliding, and it doesn't feel like people are trying to run away from U.S. assets. Treasuries, for instance, are playing the safe haven role that they've long played.
Exactly. Great point. I think this is the big difference from April. When we had the risk off, it was mostly trade, and now we've got some trade. We've got these credit cockroaches, as we're calling it, or the cockroach wars. But rates have done, government bonds are behaving the role that they should play in a portfolio. I think it's the revenge of diversification is what we're calling it, where making sure you own some duration, high quality spread product, if you've got risk assets in the portfolio. So to your question, what happened today? I think, there was all this fear.
And they're talking about the credit cockroaches too. And this is the thing, like, them talking about it doesn't do anything. But what it does do is it makes all the institutions and the banks start going, dang, we should take a deeper look at those books. That's the concern. That's what makes people nervous. So we'll see how that all evolves, I suppose. Robinhood announcement on Gen Z 401k. Okay, that's cool. What is all this? Oh, the LA Times has a piece on the Maduro thing. Let's go. I'm going to pull that up really quick. That could actually be very interesting. So, LA Times, Maduro. Let's see here. Oh, and so there's the New York Times. So, let's see here. Oh, stupid LA Times. Yeah, take a look at this. Psychological warfare in Venezuela. We examine the Trump administration's tactics in Venezuela. Yeah, see, this is not about replacing the regime. It's that psychological warfare. I totally agree with this. There are two remarkable parts of what President Trump told reporters in the Oval Office, what he said and what he didn't say. The president confirmed a New York Times scoop, published a few hours earlier, that the president had authorized the CIA to conduct covert action inside the country as part of a campaign against Maduro, the authoritarian leader who clings to power. That was a remarkable statement because presidents typically don't acknowledge directives that allow spies to accomplish a secret mission. The whole idea is having a CIA that is allowed to operate in the shadows and conduct deniable operations. Right. The CIA's got their hands on so much stuff, and then we're like, oh, we don't know anything about it. Oh, yeah, here, there, look. Used by almost all presidents since World War II, and is something along the lines of, I don't know what you're talking about, but if I did, I couldn't comment. But in this case, commenting may have been the point. Privately, the Trump administration has said they want to drive Maduro from power. In context, warships massing off the Caribbean coast and bombing narco-terrorists are psychological warfare. Trump hopes to scare Maduro into exile. Trump added pressure on Wednesday when he said the next step might be a land attack. It's just a game. Which takes us to the second point, what Trump has never talked about, and he has declined to explain. What interests are being served here? How is this America first? Stopping the flow of cocaine? Well, that makes sense, but in the case, the Navy is on the wrong. But in that case, the Navy is on the wrong coast if it's cocaine. I think he's been pitching fentanyl, but let's see. They probably addressed that too. Drugs headed to the United States largely come from the Pacific coast, not the Caribbean, where the naval buildup is happening. Access to oil, that's what Maduro's government claims, but there are ways of negotiating over oil short of military or covert action. All right, fine. Reviving democracy, maybe, but that doesn't seem to be a big push for Trump. Interventions passed, okay, so which leaves regime change an all but certain explanation. Exactly, but you could accomplish that regime change by slowly picking away at the credibility of the Maduro regime rather than having to, you know, actually like take him out or go into some kind of all-out invasion, which we don't see that. The problem for Trump is that his pretext for action keep falling apart. Intelligence agencies have already shot the idea down that the Maduro government is sending criminals to the United States to sabotage them. The analysts were either shut down or fired. Drugs are an issue, but Venezuela is not a source of fentanyl, the most damaging narco import. Its ingredients come from China and are brewed in Mexico. And Trump does not advocate regime change in those nations. Really good point. It might be helpful to the president and his aides to remember that a former Times reporter in a book called The Mission reminds readers of what happens when regime change operations go wrong. Think Iran, Guatemala, and the violent overthrow in South Vietnam. This is why I'm saying you don't really want to have, to replace the leadership, because then you have a vacuum. And that's bad because you get something worse. What you really want is a weak government. And I think that's what Trump is doing. He's trying to weaken him, to make him look weak, and to make people doubt Maduro, and to make people inside Venezuela go, we like what Trump is doing. We don't want Maduro. That's what's happening here. This is a game. Now, I agree. All right. All right. Imagine if we had Kevin's Court. That'd be cool. All right.
Like, to deny his popularity is dangerous.
No, and Democrats should be able to. I mean, why are these the two options? Likable and polished crazies, right? And frankly, like a lot of washed up people with bad policy. There needs, the fact that Democrats can't find somebody in the middle is mind-boggling and says a lot about the failure of the leadership of the party. But to the point on social workers, to brand it as progressive to leave mentally ill and homeless people on the streets.
Where did I get it? Somebody's saying, like, Kevin, your Kalshi ad. Where did I get a Kalshi ad? I gotta figure that out. Somebody send me a link to it. I don't remember doing anything with Kalshi. Maybe I did, but I don't remember. Kalshi betting market. No. They must have just clipped me, I guess, huh? Kalshi ads. I want to see myself. Kalshi. They used your voice in the ad, I swear. Kalshi ad. Oh, AI voice? Oh, maybe that's what they're doing. Huh. Anyway. Okay, good. So, what else? Peter Schiff says the losses that are about to hit the crypto industry are going to be staggering. Expect a wave of bankruptcies, defaults, and layoffs. The sector is going to be decimated by imminent Bitcoin and Ethereum crash, which will obliterate the rest of the altcoin market. Wow. Oh, Peter. Opening Venmo and seeing married couples sending each other monies for groceries. That's actually become a very common thing. People have separate bank accounts. Hey, what's up, Jason? Hey, Kevin. I don't care. They can come whenever they want. No, that's fine. No pressure at all. Go have a cup of coffee in between too. It's fine. You got it. Bye. All right. So, all right. What else here? Every single person I talk to says that when they use AI, they use GPT. I never hear Gemini, Grok, Claude. When I use GPT, it's very clearly the worst of the four. Oh, I don't think so. I mean, I think it comes down to everybody's interpretations of the results. Elon Musk is pitching the 2020 Zoran Mamdani tweets. He's walked back from that stuff, though, heavily. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Boring. Without data centers, GDP. Wow! Look at that. Oh, well, the first half. Okay, without data centers, GDP growth was 0.1% in the first half. That's pretty low, because I think the average first half was, what were you, like 1 something? I know we had a quarter there that was flat because of the tariffs, but wow. People say Tate, contrarian indicator here. Kathy Wood talking about Elon's pay package. Boring. Man, we need some more news here. Where's the news? Let's go find some stuff. All right, everybody's talking about this. Let's see what Asmongold has to say. Everybody's talking about this. All right, YouTube Inception, Asmongold reacting, and me reacting. So let's just get into it, see if there's anything in this.
First things first, before I cannonball into the spaghetti and meatballs of today's topic, what is it? I'd like to let you all know I've been actively working on my Mickey Mouse impression, so please let me know your thoughts. Pluto! So with that out of the way, I'm going to show you all of my analytics from my lifetime of being on YouTube and
Pluto, who's on the to be.
Turned made it all means of people.
Lifetime analytics. Let's see. Just show me the charts. I don't have time for all this talk. Let's see the charts. Well, this is like a 47 freaking minute video. Good lord. Let's just get to the point. All right. What do we have here? What platform is this? This isn't YouTube.
Range from 2017 to 2025 because it would just freeze. Yeah. It would just have a conniption. I bet the Twitch HQ a server just fucking caught flame.
So they made 55K in 2 years, basically, right? 2017, 2019.
This is on Twitch. Well, compare that to YouTube.
This almost 1.3. Then I got a Twitch contract, which necessitated a certain amount of ads.
Oh, they get Twitch contracts. How interesting.
Ads. 3 minutes of ad time per hour. And from 2021 to basically 2025.
It's like over 3 years.
That's actually 21, 22, 23, 24. It's actually 4 years. So it's about $1 million per year on streaming for 6,000 hours. So $1 million per year for 6,044 hours. That works out to $165 per hour for a stream. Just on ad revenue, right? On Twitch. That doesn't include obviously what he can generate by posting his clips, you know, on YouTube or otherwise. So that's just that's not bad for sitting there and yapping with the Reddit crowd, which is fine. You know, that's no offense at all. I mean, hey, we yap with the sticks, you know, which you know, it's just a different niche. But let's see here. How you make money? Wow. Okay, so so now this includes his repost. This is YouTube. Yeah, watch page ads, 34 mil lifetime. Now, how many years was that? That's pretty impressive.
Especially considering this is just the Twitch side. It was
here we go.
8 million.
Okay, so this goes back to like 2017 of streaming lifetime. It's actually curved down a little bit. So then, you know, obviously figure taxes. So, I mean, there's still going to be 17, 18 million bucks left. That's on YouTube channel analytics. And that includes everything. So that's all of his video posts, his live streams. That's pretty damn good. That's amazing. I mean, good for him. That's over, I mean, it's really mostly from 2019. So you're talking about 2019 to 2025. You're talking about 6 years, dude. That's fantastic revenue. Divided by 6, that's about $6 million of revenue from YouTube per year. For streaming on Twitch, he's getting about $1 million a year. And, you know, for the YouTube ads, he's pushing 6-7 mil. 6-7. That's pretty good, you know. And this is, you know, all sorts of regular dude commentary here, as well as some gaming. But there's also this incredible viewership that he gets, you know, in finance. It's a very, very niche. So there's substantially lower viewership in finance. But it's remarkable. Look, latest video, 13 hours ago, 539,000 views. No, I'm not buying Pokemon or Black Ops 7, almost 1 million views. I'm not turning it back on, 3.4 million views. This is incredible. So it really shows, like, hey, like if you can go make if you can get a following in this type of community, there's some real money there. That's pretty impressive. So good for him. That's awesome. Totally different community and niche than the material that we cover. But wow, that's very impressive. Honestly, it should be motivating. Like if you ever want to make a YouTube channel, you know, go stream. Go make a YouTube video. Go share your thoughts. Go share your opinions. And this is that should be very motivating to folks. So hey, if you need a side hustle, go make a YouTube channel. And actually, you think about it, you could turn that into a tax strategy. So let's say, I don't know, you're a doctor, right? And you don't have a side hustle. So you don't have to make an LLC or whatever, just side hustle. Start making YouTube videos. And as long as you have an expectation of profit, you can write off necessary and ordinary expenses related to that. So some of your cell phone costs, your home office costs, your camera costs, your laptop costs, or whatever. And now you turn the side hustle into not only a potential lottery ticket, but also a tax strategy. So I think there's a lot to this. This is very impressive, and there's that's why I say everybody should have a side hustle, even if it's just a small side hustle. You know, like you know, if let's say you got a really good core business, and you know, maybe let's say you're working at, I don't know, you're a tech worker, you're working at an AI company or whatever. Like, what harm is there just having your real estate license on the side? And, you know, maybe you know, you're regularly looking for yourself to buy an investment property. Sounds like a side hustle that has an expectation of making profit in the future. Because if you buy an investment property in the future, you know, maybe you just had a few years of education and related technology expenses to get you to the point where you finally became an investor in real estate. So obviously, always talk to your CPA, but there's a tax lesson in there. In addition to, wow, I mean, those are some phenomenal numbers. So good for them. You know, very, very viral creator here. So, right. That's that.
A long time
back.
ago.
Let's see what else there is. So, bank trio of frauds spark fear.
I think people, excuse me, are realizing that there's a lot about banks and credit that they don't know. And the reason you see Barclays and Deutsche Bank down more than the regional banks is because the active capital markets institutions are the ones we worry about. Small regional banks that have idiosyncratic events, okay. But what we really want to know is the big guys in credit. What's going on in the back? You saw Jamie Dimon's comment about the cockroaches. I think, he's sitting at the top of the food chain. What about the rest of them? That's what we have to find out.
I saw a scatter dot chart, which included many of the firms that Paula and I speak to every day, folks. The tensions in the shadow derivatives economy, Chris Whalen. It's about CLOs. It's about words from 2006. Tranches, good tranches, lesser tranches. What are the Chris Whalen shadows on this Friday morning?
I think that you just hit the right three-letter word, which is CLOs. They've been very active. The Wall Street Sausage Factory has been running overtime.
The Wall Street Sausage Factory?
Let's face it, investors have been pushed back in terms of protections. So, for example, with First Brands, you see no trustee for the collateral. Tales of Bear Stearns 15 years ago, right? Double, triple pledges of existing collateral. So investors, I think, are going to have to start getting much more aggressive to protect themselves if they don't want to have surprises like this.
Chris, coming out of the great financial crisis, I was told, and I think most market participants were told,
Jeffries claims they were defrauded. Yes, that's the easiest way to sweep this under the rug.
balance sheets are much better, the capital ratios are much better, no need to worry. Is that still the case, or do we need to worry a little bit here?
In terms of what you can see on balance sheet and in financial statements, yes. The banks are actually underutilized right now. They're giving back cash. But what you worry about is the off-balance sheet exposures, same old story, right?
Yep.
And also what's going to happen.
I mean, he's right. That is exactly what you're worried about, is what do we not see? What's not being audited, right?
With their clients, who are in some cases very heavily levered. So it's an episodic thing, but I think it's starting to come to a bit of a head here, because you've had several years of very aggressive deal making, and now we're going to see how the recipe looks as it comes out of the oven, right?
If you're just joining us, folks, Chris Whalen will continue with him. Ben Laidler on deck here with Bradesco BBI, and Professor Schiller will join us on the festivities of Washington. At 2 a.m., the FT published a wonderful summary, Chris Whalen. Here's a quote. I put it out on Twitter. Lawyers for the industry say they have little power to push back against weak protections when willing buyers are so numerous.
Yes.
Is it 06,
yes,
Simon Johnson, the laureate?
Because of the yield. It's so right. It doesn't matter, it's, and they don't know. People buy these products at Point Bonita or whatever because they get promised some kind of yield on some financial instrument, and the bank's like, oh, it's audited or whatever. They don't know. I think that's something that we have that's somewhat unique, and I never want to, how should I say it, certainly never want to abuse it. But I think it's one of the things that we have to really respect, is that YouTube has given us the chance to create House Hack, and people have, invested $70 million or whatever into House Hack. And it's phenomenal, but it's based on us maintaining trust and doing good work for people. These financial instruments, you don't know the face of the person on the other side. You don't know if they wake up going, oh, I'm going to try to go, print some money today and scam some people at the First Brands guy who's clearly been down this road before. You don't know what their mentality is. And then when it goes bust, nobody even knows what the guy's face is. Doesn't even matter. Who's the CEO of First Brands? Financial Times did a piece on them, but who's reading the Financial Times? I mean, I got the Financial Times. It's actually right here. But who reads this? Look, he's right here. Here you go. But it's not even a good picture, dude. It's like one of the pictures of him like this, super blurry, and the other one is of him as a kid. So who cares? You're nobody knows. And that's how these frauds, they because they're so hidden, they end up going back to frauding again. It's did you all see the Trevor Milton thing? Dude, that was the scariest freaking Instagram video I think I've seen this week. which isn't that much. It's like there's scary stuff you can see on there. I try not to look. I really try not to look at other social media stuff. Yeah, because then what ends up happening is you get these AI videos, and it's so bad. Have you seen the whole like AI trend of like the overweight DoorDash porch guy? Dude, it is the most ridiculous stuff. Look at this.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I got your order out here.
Bro, it's all AI, but when you watch it the first time, you're like, wait, is that real? You look at it and it's like, oh my gosh, the guy is so dedicated to his job. Like he's going to go push the doorbell. Even though he's already collapsing, he's gonna go push the doorbell. Like, what a badass. This is a hard worker. Like, let's hire this guy. Well, I mean, there might be some job requirements that might not work otherwise, but otherwise, like, talk about dedicated.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I got your order out here.
And he got like the whole butt crack and like his hand on his butt crack. Like, like this is the problem, you know, with the internet these days. It's like, that's funny, but it's also like AI. It's just a waste of time. But anyway, what was I looking at? Oh yeah, Trevor Milton. So somebody says brain rot. Yeah, exactly. All right. So outside of the AI DoorDash delivery people falling through people's decks, this is by far the scariest video yet that I've seen. It is on Instagram, and it's Trevor Milton's account. Now, what I love is when you look at somebody's Instagram and the only people that they are also followed by are reporters. That's a red flag. Unless they ran for, like, governor or something, right? But anyway, look at this. Trevor Milton says, I finally get to tell you guys. Now, let me remind you that Trevor Milton is a proven fraud. He is a proven fraud who rolled a hydrogen/electric vehicle down a hill to indicate that their hydrogen, or imply that their hydrogen propulsion system for their semi-truck was working. But they really just towed it down or up a hill and then let it go. And now Trevor Milton vehemently denies that this was fraud. Here's that actual video. The stock rocketed on this. Like JP Morgan called it the story stock of the decade. I don't think it was of the decade, they said, but they definitely called it the story stock to buy. People are like, oh my gosh, this is huge. And the concept of what Nikola was doing was actually very smart. They wanted to create a pickup truck that would be half hydrogen, so you could fuel it up in 5 minutes and have renewable hydrogen, half battery, so you could have battery, the battery efficiency and have the hydrogen generators fill up the batteries. It was great. You could also use the battery infrastructure to sort of prop up the hydrogen infrastructure, which just doesn't exist. So the story was great, but they had AI, I mean, maybe not AI back then, but they basically had like photoshopped images of their ATVs and their trucks, and they were taking deposits of them, and then this rolled down the hill. This ends up kind of turning out to be, a big short, mostly because the story comes out and you get leaks from the inside that, no, this was actually a fraud. Anyway, so he gets sued by the SEC and, of course, donates $2 million roughly to the Donald Trump Foundation or his campaign or whatever. And so what a surprise, Donald Trump pardons Trevor Milton. Donald Trump, when he pardoned Trevor Milton, he didn't even really know the guy. The pardon of Trevor Milton was so sad because when you hear Donald Trump talk about it, you could hear, Trump doesn't even know anything about the guy. He just got told from his staff that, oh, he's a good guy and he was taken advantage of by the Democrats. And that's what makes me so scary is what Trevor Milton is doing now, which I'll show you. But first, look at what Donald Trump said when he was asked about it.
Reason for pardoning Trevor Milton?
Highly recommended by many.
See, Trump doesn't even know. He's got to look up into the sky and go, oh, yeah, that's right. I pardoned Trevor Milton. Oh, my staff told me to pardon him.
Many people that was taken advantage of. He did a business deal like in Utah, as I have it.
Okay, he's a Mormon, but I don't actually believe the Nikola facility was in Utah. I actually thought it was in Arizona, but I might be confusing that. But anyway.
I think he was exonerated, and then they brought him into New York. We had a rough road.
Yeah, correct. It was East Broadway Road, Phoenix, Arizona. So Trump doesn't even know the details of what's going on here. The guy's from Utah, but the business was in Arizona.
I mean, he was exonerated. It was a big celebration. Again, I don't know him, but I was...
The factory was in Coolidge, Arizona, Hauser Road, and then the office was on East Broadway Road.
They say it was very unfair, and they say the thing that he did wrong was he was one of the first people that supported a gentleman named Donald Trump for president. And
no, that's not what he did wrong. And so Donald Trump doesn't know. His staff, which gives actually, ironically, Donald Trump some plausible deniability, but it's the corruption around Donald Trump that lets people get away with this stuff. Because think about it. Like, all you have to do is be, I'll make this up, Susie Wiles, and be like, Trevor, $250K to me, Bitcoin's fine, $2 million to Trump, I'll get you pardoned. That's all it takes. And I'm not saying that, you know, Democrats aren't corrupt either. All the politicians are corrupt. I hate them all. But this is what happens when there's corruption. When there's corruption, you end up getting Trevor coming back.
So much fun. I finally get to tell you guys what I've been working on for so long.
Somebody says Trump is AutoPen. I mean, it's verbal AutoPen. Like, he's just listening to the corruption around him.
Just this company with a group of people called Cyberjet. So I bought this company and I was like, you know what? I need to work on something to keep my mind sane during all this chaos, the hell I went through for the last 5 years, being indicted for something I didn't even do, being framed for a crime I didn't.
Bull crap. Let's look up Cyberjet really quick. So what is this? Cyberjet, the world's fastest and farthest flying light jet. Newer model coming soon. Request reservation. Cybervision. How interesting. This, by the way, Cirrus makes a Vision jet. And that's probably where they're borrowing the name from. Now, what's also very interesting is most plane manufacturers do not make their own flight decks. I happen to know this as somebody who's a licensed jet pilot. When you manufacture a jet, you actually just plug in like a Garmin flight deck. Okay, this isn't hard to understand. These aircraft manufacturers, there's so many components that, like, Embraer, for example, does not make their own engines. They get them from Pratt & Whitney, or Boeing gets them from Rolls-Royce, right? This is very normal, very common, not unusual at all. But the graphics they're already showing for this Cyberjet thing already make me a little sussy bogud.
You did really good. Thank you.
Because I'm wondering, wait a minute, that already looks like you don't know what you're doing in aviation. And it makes me wonder, like, okay, here we go. Trevor the fraud is back at frauding. Now, maybe he wasn't a fraud. Maybe he was innocent. It's just my opinion, having covered all of the drama that happened with Nikola and then seeing this guy get pardoned, I'm disgusted. And then, so forgive me for being really skeptical of Cyberjet, which is almost trying to borrow again from Tesla with Cybertruck, except it's Cyberjet, spelled differently. Mind you, they also got sued by Tesla for borrowing like semi-truck designs, and they were in a legal battle with Tesla over that for quite a while. But it's wild to me. But anyway, we'll keep listening to Trevor Milton here, and then we'll keep looking at Cyberjet. But this makes me sus already that this flight deck just looks graphically slapped together and not something that actually looks like a functional flight deck. Because I just never seen something like that before. Again, this is what happens when people just use Photoshop to slap together examples. I'll give you an example of a real flight deck. Here, I'll show you really quick. This is just an example of me flying into Heber, Utah, for example, in a jet. That's a flight deck. Right? So that's a real flight deck, but it's a Garmin 3000 aviation system inside of an Embraer manufactured aircraft, which is a Brazilian manufacturer. They're not going to make their own flight decks. So already I am mega sus just by looking at one of their first examples here. And so we'll see what else he pitches here.
By President Trump, and now just last week the SEC dropping the whole case against me.
Yes, because you paid money to Trump. That's how you got the SEC to drop the case against you.
Holy crap! Talk about a comeback. It's like the American dream, you know, like
yes, the American corruption. America's for sale.
Everyone falls down. Everyone gets their butts kicked in life. And you have to be willing to just be like, it's okay. That's all right. Like, I grew from it. I became 10 times stronger and wiser than I ever was.
You could fraud better now than ever before. Oh, okay.
Executive and CEO of Nikola. Now I get to come back and I get to bring all those skills and I get to transform the aviation.
All the fraud skills that he has.
Like I got to do for the transportation industry.
You didn't transform anything in the transportation industry. You lied.
Transportation industry, almost everyone now is doing electric semi-trucks, hydrogen semi-trucks. Why? Because of Nikola. We were the very first ones.
Yeah, everybody's doing hydrogen today because of you.
Remember that. The world followed us because we were pioneers. We were the first people. Now what we get to do is we get to do the same thing with aviation. So how are we going to pioneer aviation? Let me tell you about this. First of all, the company's called Cyberjet. You can go to cyberjet.com. The name's been around for a long, long time. The company was built by a guy named Ed Swearingen, a brilliant aerodynamicist. He developed it to be able to go Mach 8.3, and he achieved it. It got FAA certified, billions of dollars.
Oh, this is already bullshit. So they're saying they can keep your cabin altitude at sea level while you're at 41,000 feet. Bro, when I'm at 45,000 feet in a jet, my cabin altitude is 6,000 feet. And that's good. You know, a Boeing at 35,000 feet might be at like an 8,000 foot altitude. The higher the cabin altitude, the more you feel jet lagged and the more tired you can be, right? So this is why in business aircraft they pitch, we can get your cabin altitude lower. So, for example, in Phenom 300E, like what I'm certified in, these aircraft get you to about 6,000 feet of cabin altitude. They're arguing, oh, we can get your pressurization down to sea level. Man, dude, I don't even want to know what pressurization systems you're pretending you have here.
Went into this program, and they ended up finally getting it certified. Long story short is with the downturn in the economy in 2008, kind of shut the company down. And it's been sitting dormant for a long time. So I was able to pick up all those...
so he bought a bankrupt idea, basically.
...assets. And now what I've done is I brought the brightest minds over from the guys I actually trust, the guys that were really good and honest. I was able to bring those guys over from Nikola. So the former chief engineer, the former chief technology officer, and a whole slew of other amazing engineers that I trusted and that were honest and always stood up for what was right. These guys are now over here at Cyberjet with me. So number one, what is it? Cyberjet's the company. Number two, we build private jets. Number three, I'm bringing over all the talent.
Good luck getting 3,000 nautical miles of range on an 18,500 ramp weight, because that is roughly the Phenom. What were we? 17.4? I want to say. I should have it memorized.
That I trust, and that was amazing. I just wanted to tell you guys, it's so exciting because it's been bottled up for years, and now I get to finally tell you guys what we're doing. Look up cyberjet.com, take a look, and we're going to let you guys follow along with us. This is going to be so awesome. We're actually going to create a TV series that follows us through all the challenges to get this jet from where it is right now to the SJ36 full production. Because remember, the SJ30 already, the current model, is already FAA certified, but it's nowhere near ready to be handing over to customers' hands, even though they did. So what we're going to do is we're taking that and we're modifying it and we're improving it beyond measure and we're bringing it to the new world standards.
The weights are actually almost the same as the Phenom weights, and there's no way you're getting 50% more range.
The stuff that is like super advanced technologies that's in the automotive world, we're bringing to the aviation world. So you'll be able to remote control your plane. You'll be able to update it with your flight plan.
Nobody's going to remote control plane. Who cares? Like, what do you mean? You're going to sit like drone control your plane? That's insane. Like, yeah, the FAA is going to go for that. Bull crap.
Through your smartphone.
Crew, a one-person crew. I mean, you have 2 seats in the front. You could certify it at that weight for 1, I guess.
You'll be able to start it up and climate control it like you do it.
Wow, that's a short cabin height. Cabin height 4.3 feet. That's low. That's really low. Maybe that's how they're trying to pull that off.
an EV. All this technology is not available on jets. We're going to be the first ones to have over-the-air updating. And guess what? We're building our own avionics. This is the only jet manufacturer that builds their own jets and their own avionics.
Yeah, okay, you're going to have your own flight deck. I saw your graphic, and I don't believe it as far as I can throw it, which isn't far for this guy.
Than anything out on the market. And they're definitely way more advanced, which is cool. Follow along with the journey. I'm super excited for you.
Hey, we're going to do everything. We're going to end up with... we're going to have our own avionics. We're going to have over-the-air updates, which who cares? You just have a maintenance, your maintenance crew plug in the SD card, like, okay, or you'd make it over-the-air. That's fine. That's not that big of a feature. And we're going to be able to get 50% more range in an aircraft that's the same size as a Phenom 300. Mind you, we're going to fit 9 people instead of the 11 that the Phenom 300 can fit. Fine. Maybe that's how they want to try to get weights down or whatever. And we're going to pressurize it to sea level, which just isn't done in jet aircraft. And trust me, bro, I'm not a fraud. This is crazy. It blows my mind that he's branding this as the American dream. This guy is a guy who bought his way to freedom, and now he's coming back for some more frauding. This disappoints me, but I mean, I won't put my money anywhere near that, so it's okay. You know? It's crazy. All right, so what else do we have going on in the world? Q's actually at highs of the day, roughly. Q's up, Tesla up, MP Material down, CoreWeave down. All 4 of those were on our alpha report this morning before the market opened up. Bitcoin's trying to hold on. Nvidia 182 coming off the backs of a little bit of a push yesterday. All right, let's see what else here. Let's go. So that's Trevor Milton. I can't believe this. All right, we talked about crypto liquidations hit 1.2 billion, Fed independence, blah, blah, blah. Let's see what Nick T's up to. Okay, here we go. Nick T. Nicholas. Oh, Nick. How should the Fed think about recent funding market signals? These paragraphs from Lori Logan's most recent balance sheet speech in August seem relevant now. So, balance sheet normalization. Let me see about liquidity. It must maintain enough reserves to manage whatever liquidity risks are inherent in the current business model. Right. The bank has options for reducing reserve demand. It can cut interest rates. It can reconfigure to require less liquidity. Assets. All right, that's boring. Boring, Nick T. How do I short the company? It's private. Powell indicated on Tuesday that the kind of funding pressures becoming evident in overnight lending would likely set up to ending QT in the coming months because officials don't want to find out where the steeper part of reserve demand sits. It's worth noting that Mickey Bowman just a few weeks ago endorsed this. All right. Well, we'll see what ends up happening with liquidity, huh? Tomahawks to Ukraine is trending. Yeah, we'll see if that happens. I doubt. I think Trump's going to buy some time after the Trump talk, or the Putin talk yesterday. All right, let's go. Into here. No. Goldman Sachs wants more of the AI infrastructure. Goldman Sachs is expanding a push into the hot market for financing data centers. More debt. Oh, yeah. Somebody says, how are treasuries? Yeah, I do want to know how treasuries are. Oh, you have 3 bips today. 3 bips, gold cooling off some of that momentum a little bit, and oil stable. Okay. Wall Street giant is creating a team within Global Banking and Markets Division that will focus on infrastructure financing. Yes, we need a slice of that debt, baby. The effort being fueled by a new wave of multi-billion-dollar deals, AI data centers. Okay, growing demand. Goldman's profits are increasingly being propelled by a growing presence in the world of financing. Friday, Goldman told employees to making change to its units. We're going to create a real asset finance group. Yes, more debt available. More debt available. Beyond increasing revenue, Goldman's goal is to create more investment vehicles. Aha, there it is. Goldman's goal is to create more investment vehicles for asset and wealth management clients. Exactly. So they can give you slices of the AI debt and they can take their fee. Wow.
But he can't just unilaterally raise taxes. He has to get Albany's approval, and with all of these, with the strains that they're facing, it's going to be tougher for him to, to get anything.
And this is something that Andrew Cuomo has pointed out time and again, that the governor would need to approve this, and it's not just so simple to raise taxes and have people stay. How come that is not denting his popularity among voters?
Well, I mean, I think, this campaign has been, it's been
vibes.
Been personality. Yeah, he's got a great personality. He's great on social media, apparently. And they don't really get into the details. When he says he wants to raise taxes on the rich, he doesn't say that he's going to need Albany's approval. And it just, it sounds really easy and great for a lot of people, but it's, obviously it's not that easy. It won't be easy for him if he wins.
So he's sounding the right note as he's on the campaign trail before the actual election. Martin, thank you so much. Martin Braun covers muni bonds for us here at Bloomberg News in New York. Now, staying with the muni theme, concerns over cyber risks is also growing in the muni market. MuniOS got a ransomware attack that disrupted state and local borrowers' ability to post debt documents on this platform for several days until it went back online yesterday morning. Let's bring in Bloomberg's municipal bonds reporter, Erin Hudson. How disruptive was this?
Yeah, so what we've heard is that it caused a lot of inconvenience and headaches for borrowers and investors alike. The MuniOS platform is very popular in the muni market, and this is basically, it's a key part of the new issuance market. And it's been a very busy year in the muni market. Supply is up about 15% year over year. So to have a disruption, it causes a ripple and bothering day-to-day things, but fortunately what we've heard in our reporting so far is that no transactions were actually delayed or impacted thus far due to this outage. So
okay, so all systems as usual, but I wonder, are cyber attacks a growing threat, a growing risk in the muni market overall?
Yes, this is not the first time that there's been a cyber attack in the muni market. There was a high-profile situation last year where a suburb of Detroit had their bond sale hacked and the proceeds were stolen. So it is a known threat, and credit analysts are mentioning this as an impact for borrowers. And part of that is due to the fact that for local governments, they're typically understaffed and underfunded, so that does make them quite vulnerable to a sophisticated attack.
All right, well said. And perhaps they didn't buy the latest cybersecurity software to really guard their systems. Bloomberg's
blah, blah, blah. Man, this is boring today. All right, let's go to the Chinese. Global Times. China. Real risk in China, Europe, economic trade ties is de-cooperation. In China, Europe, yes. Okay. Real risk in China, Europe, economic trade is de-cooperation. In recent days, Europe-China policies once again stirred waves. WTO. All right. Yeah, this is coming up as well because of automotive components. Witkoff to travel to the Middle East. Okay, boring. Market's doing fine. Let me see here. Tesla's up. Q's are up. CoreWeave's down. MP Materials down. This is exactly what we talked about in the Alpha report this morning. You've got Meta. 7-Eleven. Could be better. Adobe. Ooh, Adobe's coming back to its triple bounce line. Bitcoin 106, Nvidia is doing okay. Axon 669. SPY 26 bips. Ooh, Figure 37. I like that price. What else here? Intuit. This is sexy. Keep an eye on Intuit. Yeah, good. All right, very well. Well, if I choose to buy anything, I'll send you a trade alert in the course member alpha group. I got to run. I got a bunch of work to do today. Got to go to some properties as well. Got some meetings. Got a board meeting with HouseHack. It's going to be fun. So, yeah, if you want to learn more about investing in HouseHack, remember, go to househack.com. The new website, I want to transfer it over later today, so it'll be really fun. But you can see the draft of it at reinvest.co. Same company, obviously. I still have to wrap up some of the text on there, so there could be some bugs or errors. So anyway, appreciate y'all, folks. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.